Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
Nicolas Cage had been dreaming of playing Ghost Rider since he was a kid. Unfortunately, his dream came true only a year before The Dark Knight and Iron Man revolutionized the comic book genre forever, leaving Ghost Rider in the pre-MCU dust. All that said, it's not as bad as Daredevil. So let's all penance stare into one of Nicolas Cage's greatest passion projects, Ghost Rider.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! Porker! How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
There's hell to pay when Johnny Blaze offers up his soul in exchange for curing his father's cancer. But Mephistopheles might have picked the wrong errand boy to take down a renegade demon named Blackheart and his badass posse of fallen angels, played by the members of Breaking Benjamin. I'm glad you guys agree with me on that, because I saw that. I was like, it looks exactly the same. Every new metal band. The guy even looks like the lead singer of Breaking Benjamin.
So true.
You know, I wonder if maybe because it was around that time, like 2007, maybe they were like, oh, this is cool now. So everybody looked like these guys.
You know what's funny? Because that's, I think 2006, 2007 is when they dropped their second album.
Yeah,
and they
I was
were
really into them
huge
around
at
then.
the time. Yeah. That's so funny. I bet you it did have some influence on them.
I mean, you could look at a lot of those bands, like you were saying, West Borland, and like the members of Korn and all of those like new metal early 2000s bands.
Yeah, all those, like,
the dirt guy is the Disturbed guy.
Yeah, some out of touch exec was like, "What's hot and edgy? New metal.
Turn on MTV."
Ladies and gentlemen, here are your stars.
Ghost Rider stars the always perky Eva Mendes, bag boy Ricky Fitz, aka Wes Bentley of American Beauty fame, Nick's Deadfall co-star Peter Fonda, and of course, Johnny Blaze himself, Academy Award winner, and the baddest MFer on two wheels, Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
Ghost Rider was released on February 16th, 2007.
That's way later than I remember. I thought it came out in like 2004, 2003.
Same, yeah.
Like,
Wow. I thought it was earlier too.
Yeah.
I remember really liking it when it first came out, which is weird because I was, 25? Which is surprising to me. But I remember oh man, because I always liked Ghost Rider as a character, and he was always one of those characters that was so seldom used in things, I guess because he's I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to kind of blend the line between the supernatural and superheroes, and it was hard to put him into things, I guess. Yeah. But he was always one of my favorite characters. 2007, I mean, literally knocking on the door of The Dark Knight and Iron Man and MCU, just completely revolutionizing Marvel in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because Batman Begins came out in 2006?
Yeah, something like that.
2005.
Yeah.
So this movie kind of came out right in the middle of
Batman Begins
the
had already started laying that groundwork of what
Yeah.
comic book movies could be.
I mean,
So
I think
guess
it
even
did.
at the time, this kind of felt a little bit of a throwback to the crappier early 2000s.
to Spider-Man 3.
comic
Wait, no,
movies.
Spider-Man 3 came out at the same time, didn't it?
Yeah,
I
somewhere
think
around
it was
there.
2006, I think is when Spider-Man 3 came out.
No, it had to be 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, you're right, 2007, so same year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I mean, this is better than Spider-Man 3, so you got to say that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
no, I disagree.
I mean, I definitely
give
would
it
say
that.
that this is better than a lot of the comic book movies that came out around that time. I don't know. Like, it's got that. It's sort of like, on the cusp of that style that Marvel really cultivated with Iron Man, and then all the movies that came after in the MCU, with that kind of like blend between humor and action and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like, I don't know. It's like a prequel to the MCU.
Yeah, I'd never seen
Now,
this.
Spirit of
and
Vengeance. No excuses there. No excuses.
This turned out to be a lot better than I thought it would be. I'd never seen it before. I just heard awful things about it. And
It's just not that
more of a
bad.
mixed bag for me.
Yeah. It had a budget of $110 million, which I have a quick fact about that price tag on this movie in general. But it made back $228 million. But if we do the Hollywood math of, kind of have to make double your budget back in order to really turn a profit. Plus you've got marketing and all that kind of stuff. So probably didn't really, really make a ton of money for the studio, but it did
It was enough
on
to
paper.
get a sequel,
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then they slashed the budget in half for the sequel. So that should tell you,
Which
probably
really
wasn't
shows,
that much
man.
of a success.
Oh, I can't wait to watch that one. That'll be a great episode. This movie was written and directed by Mark Steven Johnson, who famously really biffed it on the Daredevil movie. But they gave him a second bite at the Marvel apple, and he made Ghost Rider, and then they didn't give him the chance to make the sequel, which I think really bummed him out, because I was listening to the director commentary and he was like really excited about the prospects of doing a sequel because they'd already laid the groundwork, and now he can start as the character in the comic books in the next movie, just being out there doing penance stairs and protecting the populace.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy to see his the director / writer's filmography.
It's crazy, yeah. He wrote the Grumpy Old Men movies,
That blows my mind.
which was his start in the industry. Was the two Grumpy Old Men movies, which I love those movies, by the way.
Yes, me too. I do too.
But
I
then he
love
did
them.
Simon Birch, which I think he got a lot of acclaim for.
Yeah,
And,
that was a great movie.
Yeah, When in Rome, which was I think post Ghost Rider, if I remember right.
I never saw it.
Which was a pretty popular movie. And then I watched this movie a couple of years ago, Killing Season, because it jumped on Netflix, which is Robert De Niro and John Travolta.
Oh, yeah.
And it is surprisingly a great movie. I mean, I really, really liked the movie. And I was like, when I saw the picture, I was like, oh man, this will be a great dumb movie to watch. Because I love dumb movies. I mean, that's part of the reason we're doing this show, is because I love movies that aren't exactly top notch, but it ended up being a great movie, and John Travolta steals the show. I mean, he's in a movie with Robert De Niro, and he stole the show. So if you're ever looking for something to watch, Killing Season.
Daredevil.
Not Daredevil.
Daredevil. I almost said Daredevil. Like, don't watch Daredevil, man. No. This movie had a runtime of 110 minutes, but there is an extended cut, which is actually what I watched the first time. I didn't do the breakdown with the extended cut because I figured let's stick to the theatrical cuts, but it does shed light on a lot of things that happen throughout the movie, which I'll point out as they come. This was shot by Russell Boyd, who shot Gallipoli. I don't know if you ever saw Gallipoli. Pretty great movie. He shot both of the Crocodile Dundee movies.
I've seen those movies.
There is a third Crocodile Dundee movie, but I don't know if he shot it. I feel like nobody was involved in that third piece of crap.
I don't even think the actor was.
No, he was. He came
I was
back.
joking. I know. He needed it for financial reasons.
Yeah,
He's the Nicolas Cage of Australia.
That man's a national
So when
treasure.
are we going to get a Paul Hogan renaissance?
It's coming. It's coming.
That's his name.
He did White Man Can't Jump, Liar Liar, and then he did the Master and Commander movie, which won a Academy Award for cinematography.
Wow.
So he won an
Can't believe it was the
Oscar,
same guy.
and then he promptly retired, like right after that. He was like, I'm out.
I fully
can
expected
understand
this
that.
to be like shot by another music video cinematographer again.
It does feel like a
The way
music
some of this
video.
stuff
Yeah.
was.
The shots were odd, but I do have to say once again, it was shot like it was a beautiful shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, like it was weird choices, but how much of that is his fault versus the director? Hey, this is the vision I have.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, definitely on a soundstage, make it noticeable. We're gonna shoot it like we're in a Breaking Benjamin music video.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, it was a gorgeously shot movie. I think from start to finish. Can't say as the second one quite holds up as far as the cinematography, but this one did.
But they're on roller
pretty well.
skates, being dragged by a motorcycle.
God, oh, can't wait.
I'm gonna do a deep dive on that behind the scenes video for that episode.
Revolutionary filmmaking.
Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 26%, which isn't even close to our worst movie so far, but like 26%. I feel like it's fair. I mean, it's a 4.19 out of 10 on 140 reviews. So yeah, I mean, when you think about that aggregate score, it means 26% gave it a 6 or above. I mean, that's pretty crazy to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Anyways, Metacritic gave it a 35%, and then the audience score is a 48%, which I think is fair. I think 48 is about right, in my personal opinion. I think from a critic standpoint, I can see why they really lambasted this movie, but it's an enjoyable movie. It's a fun, like, summer Hollywood blockbuster movie, and you watch a movie like Gone in 60 Seconds, and I like this movie infinitely more than that movie.
How dare you?
Sorry, Vince.
Dare you?
How about a Coppola quick facts?
There are a lot of quick facts for this movie. I'll say, I think because it's Marvel and because it was a blockbuster, and I feel like it was a pretty popular performance from Nic Cage. Even now, I think people, when they think of Ghost Rider, they think of Nic Cage. This movie was in development since 1992, which is crazy to me. Like, how would you have pulled off these effects in 1992?
Originally practical.
Yeah.
Like if I would just lit a guy's head on fire, do some quick shots of it, then put him out.
Yeah.
I'm guessing like stop motion or something. Like maybe they would have done some of that, or I don't know. I mean, 1992 was right before Jurassic Park and like kind of the revolution in CGI effects.
Yeah, it was like, was that a year after Terminator 2 came out, or was that? So it probably were like.
I think 92 was when Terminator
cool
2 came out, actually. It was originally, Johnny Depp was originally attached to be Johnny Blaze. Which would have been...
Imagine that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
He just kind of...
everything, so
he talks
something.
in kind of a stutter step.
Nicolas Cage voice.
Just sort of thinks things out as he's saying them.
He's the more pretentious Nic Cage.
He's got kind of that Nic Cage Timber Days voice, too.
He does. I'm the Ghost Rider.
But he does change from role to role. I mean, think of Jack Sparrow versus Edward Scissorhands.
I could say the same thing about Nic Cage. He definitely... He has some very different
I don't think he goes as cartoonish as Johnny Depp can.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't go full Hunter S. Thompson in everything he does. Where like he really embraced his kind of like post Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like channeling of Hunter S. Thompson and everything he did. Eric Bana was also attached all the way up until the point when they were about to shoot this thing, and then Bana dropped out to go do Ang Lee's version of the Hulk.
Yes, I was gonna say. Tell me he dropped out to go do the Hulk.
He went to do the Hulk.
That seems like better casting for the Hulk. I think he's
it is. Yes,
Banner than he would be Johnny Blaze.
I think he would have been a bad Johnny Blaze, but anyways, he dropped out, and then that opened the door for the man. It was originally set to begin filming in late 2003, early 2004, but Nic Cage had to take a leave of absence to go film The Weatherman, which, thank God he did. Thank God he did.
Yeah, it's no wonder why he had kind of a middle of the road performance, because he had used up all his energy in The Weatherman. I mean, he nailed it in Weatherman, and he was just
that
exhausted.
could have been pretty draining.
Do you appreciate that movie now, Nigel?
Still absolutely love The Weatherman.
I still appreciate it. I just don't like it that
So that ended up delaying things to February 2005. Is when
So
they
I guess
actually
it
started
does make
filming.
sense why I thought it was like a 2003, 2004 movie. It was probably would have been the same if it had released then.
Yeah. They ended up
Since they were all ready to go.
canning it for a year, like just putting it on the shelf for a year. And I think it was because Sony had like a really busy summer slate, and they didn't want Ghost Rider to be overshadowed by some of the other things that they had in the works, which I think was like, probably Spider-Man and 2005. So 2 years after it started filming is when it actually came out, which makes sense also because of the CGI. I mean, back then, pulling off effects like this were substantially harder, even though I know they mostly hold up, but there are moments when it looks really, really fake. Especially on, like, I have a 4K TV with like the extra scan lines and all that crap, so like it just makes things that were kind of fake look really fake.
I was about to say the same thing. I have a 4K monitor I watched it on, and it looked good, but you could definitely tell where the CGI had aged.
Looked a little video gamey at times, but
Fire is really hard to do. I remember watching the behind the scenes on like on the Lord of the Rings, and like they pretty much figured out how to do CG fire for that movie. Like it hadn't really been done effectively in movies before, and that was only 5 years before this movie came out. So
I would say it was more the skull effect that threw me off than the fire effect. They talked about the fire, how it was done on the commentary, and like they took actual fire and filmed it in front of a black background, and then they keyed it out and then kind of like layered it in different spots, and like they came up with the idea of like the color changing to kind of depict his moods, because he didn't have any facial expressions, but like it would go blue when he was more soft, and like when he's talking to Roxy and stuff. And they said that was the hardest part, because filming blue flame in front of a black background was extremely difficult. Because usually the blue will only show up if you have light in behind it, so you can see through it. Yeah, they had to come up with some pretty cool stuff for this movie.
I definitely give him a lot of credit for the effects then, because like the demon, like not the demon effect, the skull effect was rough. It aged poorly, but like the flames, I was really impressed, and now knowing what they did to create that, it definitely makes me appreciate the effects even more.
I mean, it's real flames, but
cool.
The funny thing about the skull is that is actually a computer-generated skull that was based off of a 3-dimensional X-ray taken of Nicolas Cage's skull. I'm sure they changed the eyes and stuff, but like
awesome.
it's actually his skull, which is pretty fucking cool. This, so we have been just completely making fun of Wes Bentley as we've been talking back and forth for his performance in this, but this kind of makes it make sense a little bit. According to an interview he gave in the New York Times in 2010, this movie was made during the middle of his decade-long serious addiction to cocaine and heroin. He said in that interview that he only accepted any movie roles during that time so that he would have money to buy enough drugs, which also explains why he just disappeared for all those years, where he just would kind of like pop up sporadically. Which I think he got clean about the time that he did the first, I think it was maybe the first or the second Hunger Game movie. That was his sort of comeback, which he's kind of on the rise again, but not nearly as much heat behind him as he had back then. I mean, post American Beauty, he was like touted as the next like big leading man in Hollywood and stuff, and then oh man, he really screwed that up with this movie.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know he had an addiction problem, but it makes sense.
I didn't know he could act. I've never seen him in anything. I haven't seen American Beauty, so
he's great. He's great in American Beauty.
Yeah, he's great in it.
I thought they just cast some random guy to play this, and then we're like, "Whoa, that was blackball that guy forever."
No, this is a shock, because in American Beauty, he delivered a really good performance. It was subtle, but like there was a lot of depth to the character.
Yeah,
this movie, I totally understand why now, because he was just
there for the paycheck.
Paycheck.
In the commentary, the director said that they chased after Wes Bentley specifically for this role, which is really surprising to me based on what Blackheart is like in the comics. I mean, he's he's nothing like Wes Bentley at all. But like, they had a bunch of other people that they were lining up to potentially play the role. But they said like Wes Bentley, in the commentary, this was probably recorded back before they knew that he was on coke and heroin the whole time. But they said like he never takes any roles. Like he turns down everything. And they were like, when we chased after him, we were shocked when he said yes to do this role. And now we know why. This is one of the few Marvel comic-based movies in which Stan Lee did not appear.
That's right.
Yeah, I was looking for him because I was like, I feel like I remember him popping up in some spot, but he had absolutely no involvement whatsoever in the creation of the original Ghost Rider. And I think, like, you know, I feel like Sony was kind of like, well, he's in all the Spider-Mans. We don't want to confuse people. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was.
I don't think that had become as much of a meme at the time. Like, I'm sure if you made it a couple years later in the MCU, he would have been in it. But at the time, it was more like, it's funny. He made Spider-Man, so he's in the Spider-Man movies. But there wasn't probably a drive to get him in all the other movies.
No, because I don't remember him being in the Eric Bana Hulk, but I don't think so. Much of that movie either. I think it was mainly just a Sam Raimi nod to Stan, and then obviously Marvel taking over and creating their own studio. It's like, hey, we gotta cameo him because people love it.
Yeah, I've like emotionally repressed that Ang Lee Hulk movie. I don't remember anything about it.
When I think about it, I just thought it was a weird choice to have the Hulk trapped in a boat in the middle of the ocean with a tiger. I thought that was a weird choice, but it was a great movie.
The only thing I remember, like every time I think of that movie, it's just Nick Nolte eating electricity, chewing on these power cables.
Saddle up, pilgrims.
Oh God.
This is the film debut of Rebel Wilson, which she kind of steals the when she pops up. I love her little her little gangster
her fucking
sign.
When she runs off, just her physical comedy is fucking amazing.
Yeah,
my wife and I were like, is that Rebel Wilson? Like, is she what?
This was filmed in Australia, of course, was filmed in Melbourne. So it makes sense that I think she was probably like local casting and she kind of got her big break. And that she ended up in the trailers with her little like gang sign thing that she flips and her description of Ghost Rider. I remember that specifically. So like her little bit part that probably wasn't going to turn into anything. I bet you she was only in that mugger scene. And then they ended up like, oh my God, this chick is hilarious. Let's throw her into another scene. So I think her career might have been started because of this movie, which is kind of crazy to think that.
Very possible.
Rebel Wilson,
that's awesome.
Started from Ghost Rider.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you could think she could throw those two scenes on a demo reel and
comedy. And they're like, wait, they're like, you were in Ghost Rider? Yeah, here's my sscenes. That was the best part.
Those were the
That's the only part of the movie that was good. I thought this one was hilarious, and this has been mentioned several times in different places, but rumors persist that Nicolas Cage's abs in the movie were actually CGI. But writer-director Mark Steven Johnson refutes this, and so does Nic Cage. Nic Cage was like, I had to work out 5 hours a day on shoot days, and then I had to work out all day long on the weekends, and these assholes are like, you had fake abs, there's no way that was you. He's like, it's the hardest I've ever worked out in my entire life, and people still think that it's fake.
That's a hell of a compliment, though.
Look at these fucking abs. Those are real abs right there. It's a goddamn Adonis.
Yeah, it really is like a good compliment, though. Like, your abs look so good, they look unreal.
Yeah, I thought that, to be honest, because I don't remember much of the movie prior to rewatching it. When I saw that, I was like, wow, they did a huge favor to him. They CGI'd the hell out of that scene.
I think it's partially because, like, he just got out of the shower in the scene, so he's all wet, and I think it just kind of gives it this weird,
looks like that rubbery CG.
Yeah,
but he's so lean in the rest of the film. It's
Yeah.
it's 100% believable that he really did put that much effort into attaining that physique for the role. Because when it cuts to him at the beginning, I was like, holy shit, he's like really thin.
Yeah.
And then that scene comes up, and it's like, okay, well, that makes sense.
There's a couple of movies that he did, like Kiss of Death is one that comes to mind, where he just got like bulked up, jacked, and then this is like lean, muscular Nic Cage. It's like, I don't know how people, I mean, I guess if you're rich and you have nothing else to do with your day besides like get ready for a role,
usually you
can get in great shape,
nutrition, dietitian stuff from the studio.
But it's crazy. Like if you look at the range of like how he's looked throughout his career in different movies, he's like a chameleon, you know. This is an interesting one. I don't know if I love what they came up with, but to create the Ghost Rider's voice, sound designer Dane A. Davis recorded all of Nicolas Cage's lines as the Ghost Rider, and then filtered them through 3 different kinds of animal growls, played backwards, covering 3 separate frequencies, then played them through a mechanical volumizer before finally giving them a fiery crackle. Writer-director Mark Steven Johnson compared it to a deep, demonic, mechanical lion's roar and said, one thing's for sure, his voice will shake the theater.
Seems a little over-processed.
I kind of like was like, ugh, why does it sound nothing like Nic Cage whatsoever?
Yeah, I was disappointed.
I was trying to figure out if he actually did the voice. Or
he
if
apparently did, and he was on set
voice.
for all of those shots where it's like it's not actually, you know, it's a CGI monster, but it was actually him. There's some hilarious pictures of him with the skull makeup on and like lights around his neck and stuff. So it was all him doing the role, but his performance is completely lost. I mean, because the voice doesn't sound like him, and it obviously doesn't look anything like Nic Cage when he's, you know, Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
But what's funny, and I kind of have a question about it, and I think it comes up in the breakdown, is Sam Elliott's voice just sounds like Sam Elliott when he's the Ghost Rider. So, like, why didn't you do the same treatment for his voice? You just did it for Nic Cage.
His voice is already deep and rumbling.
I guess.
Like his voice already rumbles the theater.
I also bet there's a clause in his contract that says you cannot alter his voice because that's part of
his identity.
That's his identity.
It's iconic.
You don't mess with the dude.
Nicolas Cage's hairpiece required 3 hours to apply every day, which if you look at him from that era, 2007 or so, like his hair is pretty thin. So yeah, they had to put that, like, I don't know if they were trying to match the young actor that like played him, you know, before, or what was going on with that hair. But like, I guess it matches the comics a little bit, but at the same time, it's like
he's blonde in the comics.
It just doesn't make any sense. Why did you do that?
Why even bother? Yeah.
I guess he had to look younger, maybe.
Well, it didn't work. It just it distracted me, especially with the cut from the kid to him. I was like, whoa,
yeah,
that's a wig.
The Caretaker / Carter Slade Ghost Rider is a tribute to the original Marvel Comics Ghost Rider, now called the Phantom Rider to avoid confusion. However, the character in the comics is a regular human who wears a white costume and rides a painted horse, both covered in phosphorus for a glowing effect, which I think is pretty cool. It'd be interesting to see that take in a movie at some point.
Yeah,
a little disappointing compared to like a guy who's a demon from hell who could just trigger fire and is a skull man. But it would be interesting. I think it would be an interesting, maybe like a series or something, because it's just a person. I think it would be kind of cool to see that.
I was gonna say that was from the 40s that character came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, made a little more sense back then. Just have a guy painted white.
Yeah, no, and the westerns were really popular back then, so making it a western was cool, and then they updated it to make him a biker.
Look like a ghostly guy, yeah.
Eva Mendes intentionally gained weight for her role as Roxanne Simpson because she shares very little resemblance to the comic book version of her character, which if you look, she really doesn't.
Yeah.
Eva stated that the least she could do for fans was be as voluptuous as the comic version, and I gotta say, she pulled that off really, really well. That was one of the highlights of the movie.
Thing from her character.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
15 years later, I don't think that would hold up today. A female actress being like, let me just put on some weight to look like this unrealistic.
I needed as many
image.
curves as possible to do this character.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they still do it, but they wouldn't openly say that they did that.
Yeah, exactly. It was Nicolas Cage's idea to cast Peter Fonda as the villain, which Peter Fonda is like a family friend to the Coppolas, and he of course worked with him in his stellar performance. Peter Fonda really stole the show in Deadfall. Just was excellent in every scene. One thing I could say is, like, if you look at the quality of the acting of the villains, Peter Fonda really sticks out. I mean, he is night and day better than any of the other villains in this movie. I mean, just blows them out of the water.
Yeah, I was disappointed that he didn't have a bigger role.
Yeah,
and I was really disappointed that he didn't tell Johnny he was being a hothead.
Well, Sam Elliott had to do the bonehead one, so I had to pick and choose one, you know. Hey, bonehead. The movie was originally budgeted at $65 million, but soon the production costs went up once Nicolas Cage came on board and demanded a hefty fee to play the lead. But he also demanded that the Ghost Rider had to look photorealistic in post-production, which increased the budget costs even more. The production then hit $110 million, which is almost double what they originally projected.
Oh my God.
So Nicolas Cage is responsible for $55 million increase in the budget of this film.
Wow.
Which, you know, I would... if it was me playing the role and they were like, yeah, we're just going to put together this CGI skull monster, I would probably demand, like, this has to look real, like, if we're going to make this movie.
Yeah, you got to think that was back in the time when it was a lot harder to make things like that look real. So studios would have probably cheaped out and made it look even worse. So, yeah. Now they just farm it out to overseas CG companies to just do it, and they can make anything look cool.
You can make anything look good now.
If the Ghost Rider effects in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show looked great, and that, you know, didn't have anywhere.
You know, I haven't actually looked at those in the process of this, but I kind of wish I would have, just to see the difference between 2007 and, you know.
I thought that looked pretty cool. I liked it a lot in the show. I liked that character a lot.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. There is I mean, this isn't really a quick fact, but there is a rumor that there's a possibility that Nic Cage will come back as Ghost Rider in some sort of multiverse appearance of some sort, but nothing is confirmed at this point, and it may be footage from the actual movie before, you know, like some pieces that they already shot. And
I hope not. I hope with this upswing he's having and the rave reviews he's getting from Pig, I really hope that Marvel realizes this is the time to bring him back and to do Ghost Rider justice.
I also think, though, that would play against it, because even if it's just for a cameo part, he's going to cost a lot to bring in just for a little bit thing in Doctor Strange 2 or whatever. So they probably won't do it because of that. You know,
he's also almost 60, so
yeah. I mean, if I don't think he's going to come back and play him in any movie or expanded capacity, but he could have a cameo in something. But at the same time, that's a super expensive cameo for nothing more than like, hey, it's Nicolas Cage, you know.
I mean, I would be happy
for the dozens of people who liked the Ghost Rider movie.
The way that Marvel structures a lot of these contracts now is they can work it so that he makes money on the back end.
They could.
And then
also, he's a big fan of comics, so he may just do it because he wants to do it again.
But there's also his Disney contract. If he comes back for National Treasure 3,
that's right.
They could work that into like a 3-picture deal or something, and then he could show up as
a good point.
Ghost Rider cameo.
They could Robert Downey Jr. it.
I hope he did that. I hope his agent was like, all right, he'll come back and do National Treasure 3, but you got to put him in as Ghost Rider in something.
I hope that's true. That would be so awesome.
That dude a box of wine if he did it. Not like a box of bottles of wine, but literally a box of wine. The cheapest thing I could find.
It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
Our film begins in the form of a voiceover from the one and only Sam Elliott. He introduces us to a man who, well, he's just the man for his time and place. And this dude most certainly is that. His name's Jeffrey Lebowski. Oh, wait, that was a different, better movie than this one. Anyway.
It's damn near the same thing, like
the
taken
same
straight
delivery,
out
yeah.
of it. Yeah.
It made me really want to watch The Big Lebowski, and even though I just watched that like 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
But I was really expecting him to say, well, sometimes there's a man.
Sometimes there's a legend of the West.
Anyway, Sam Elliott tells us about the legend of the Ghost Rider. The story goes that every generation has one, and this one sure as hell looks a lot like Sam Elliott for some reason. He goes on to say the Ghost Rider is some damned soul cursed to collect the devil's deals, and this Ghost Rider in particular was sent to San Venganza to collect a contract which contains 1,000 evil souls. But that contract was so powerful, he knew he could never let the devil get his hands on it. Even though all those evil souls would have just ended up in hell anyway,
Yeah, that part didn't make sense.
I don't really understand like what the difference is. Like because these people were evil, and they were in this town.
Maybe in this universe, like the devil literally has to collect the souls. They don't just end up in hell automatically when they die, and that was part of it. I don't know.
But what's the difference? He collects all the souls anyway. Then, if that's
true, it sets
true,
up the conflict for this movie that never makes sense throughout the rest of the movie. There's parts of it that are just really questionable and weird. But anyway, devil's after 1,000 souls, and this Ghost Rider wouldn't hand him over, and he took off.
They really tried to oh, we're gonna really trick people with this Sam Elliott reveal in the very end. They're like, why'd you make the cowboy look exactly like Sam Elliott while he's describing the legend of the West?
Quick fact: San Venganza means Saint Vengeance in Spanish.
Ooh.
I'm not too brushed up on my Catholic canon, but I don't believe that that's an actual saint. I don't think there's actually a saint named Saint Vengeance.
Yeah, I'd never heard that outside of this before. And I know it's not a real town, of course.
Yeah.
But it is 500 miles from whatever town this movie takes place in, which I think is still Texas.
I think they could have at least called it like Santa Venganza, because it'd be like Holy Vengeance or whatever. But by calling it San Venganza, it's literally Saint Vengeance, which just doesn't make sense.
I guess it works for the Ghost Rider thing. Yeah. He's the spirit of vengeance.
Spirit of vengeance, yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. Santa Venganza would have made more sense. Holy Vengeance. Yeah. Although I guess he's not holy, so.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be. It's all up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Once he becomes a presence of good instead of evil, instead of working for the devil.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this whole intro happens over a goofy-ass CGI face on Peter Fonda. It looks like Jack Skellington doll was left out in the rain for a few years, scored by the sound of a tiger growl for some reason.
Why is that always the sound for evil? Like, let's just throw a tiger in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Some
uninspired
audio engineer.
Trick somebody, we got to do a jump scare of somebody jumping in front of the camera with throw a tiger noise in there because that's scary. Triggers our primal instincts.
Anyways, instead of giving him the contract, he decides to outrun the devil, who can magically appear anywhere he wants throughout the movie. He runs away by starting several brush fires as he and his horse run through the desert while the devil just stands there like a dope with his Halloween novelty cane. Yeah, they're like, he outran the devil, but the devil just stands there as his horse runs off. Doesn't bother to chase him or do anything cool. Makes you wonder if they were going to do something cool there, but they didn't have the budget for it or didn't have Peter Fonda for long enough to do anything.
Mm-hmm. I have so many questions about that because he has complete control over the Ghost Rider when Nic Cage first becomes the Ghost Rider. But then he has no control over the Ghost Riders after that, either one of them. For the rest of time. This is 150 years later.
Yeah.
And he still doesn't know where he is, where he's hid the contract.
Right. It's just weird. It's just a weird premise. Of all the things you could do with a guy who literally works for the devil, you pick this as your conflict in your movie. It doesn't make any sense.
So one thing that was illuminating in the commentary was that like there wasn't really a coherent story that they could pull from for the Ghost Rider movie. They were just kind of like, well, he does this, and he kind of has all of these things that he does that are specific to Ghost Rider, but there wasn't like a story or really like an origin that would hold up for this. So they had to kind of come up with an origin. So he said he took a year breaking the script and like trying to come up with like what the story was going to be. And this is what came out. So he spent a year.
Tell script writers how to do their job, but I feel like you can hash together something a little bit more with 40 years of or 30, I guess it should be 30 around that time. 30 years of comics to draw from inspiration.
Yeah.
You can hash together something a little bit better than this one.
Just in the time that you guys were talking about that, I already had come up with a better idea in my head. I'm more coherent.
Yeah.
I think if this film had been made now, they would have been more comfortable with the anti-hero approach.
Yeah.
And then because I think that's where they struggle is like, how do you turn this guy who works for the devil, who should essentially be somebody that's okay with doing bad things, like how do you turn that into a likable person?
Yeah.
But now with the fame of like Breaking Bad and all that stuff, and Dexter and like all these other anti-hero shows that have been popular, and even some films, like I think they could have scripted a better story that resolved with him redeeming himself and moving over to be a symbol of good and hope.
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't even fucking know what his motivation was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves with this, but I feel like you could, even if you just stick to the story, he gets caught in the middle of a power struggle between the devil and his son, for hell or whatever, and he's an unwitting pawn.
Yeah. Is that what happens? Because that was
That's
never
part
very
of it.
clear to me. I couldn't have told you that.
Right. They don't really set it up, but that's sort of the feeling I got.
No,
is Blackheart shows up and is, fighting him with his daddy issues or whatever, and he gets sent to kill Blackheart. So you could have worked that into something a little bit with a little more, what is it, pathos, something,
Yeah.
Everybody can familiarize themselves getting brought into family drama and stuff. So just put it on a demonic scale.
It was apparently the studio's idea to make Johnny Blaze likable. And they actually, in the extended scenes, there was a bunch of stuff where he kind of seemed sort of more selfish, and they cut it out because they were like, this guy has to be likable from the jump. And it was like, it's almost like an accident, because he accidentally cut himself on the contract, and that's how he sold his soul. And in the comics, he's a hard drinking, hard partying, like, kind of a evil dude, because he's the fucking devil's bounty hunter.
He willingly sells his soul out to save his dad, like in the comic. Like, it's not an accidental cut my finger on a paper cut and that's good.
Yeah.
Like,
essentially, like they could have Iron Man this. And now, obviously Iron Man hadn't existed, but Iron Man started out unlikable, in the first film, and then he starts. That's kind of the approach they should have took. It's like you have this unlikable person who, through the story, redeems himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But instead they just have this weird, like, he's kind of a douchebag, but then he's not.
He acts
he's
like
just
really immature about stuff.
But he's also a man child. But he's got these sweet abs.
I guess it was Nic Cage's idea, because the studio said that he had to be likable, so it was Nic Cage's idea to make him not the drinking, hard partying Ghost Rider. So like he doesn't drink throughout the film because I think Nicolas Cage said something like that would just remind him of the bad. He wants to live as a big child so that he can kind of like escape from the evil, that he has within him, and like, the stuff that's following him, and the inevitable future that he has. So that's why he eats jelly beans and
out of a wine glass.
Basically lives in the big apartment from that Tom Hanks lived in. All right. Anyway, sorry.
Back on track.
Tangents.
Sorry. It's been a while.
Then the moon bursts into flames, triggering the end of all life as we know it. Oh wait, that's just the beginning of the title sequence, which looks like someone had a little bit of fun in MS Paint. We see what we can presume is supposed to be the Ghost Rider's POV as he takes his bike off some sweet Hot Wheels ramps a few times before the title of the movie burns across the screen. Super mid-2000s cool title sequence.
All of those like loop-de-loops that he's jumping over. I guess it was similar to the jumps that Johnny does, but still it was so like, oh, and then it was like almost like a little kid, like, oh, and then he goes over this jump, and it comes down, and there's fire all around. It's just really dorky. I guess you could say that, you could put that on the cover of the movie it's really dorky. Part 1 and 2, it's really dorky.
It's like a dork's version of cool and edgy.
and then they come out of that music video and they're demons.
And then he gets hit with a truck, but then he's cool because he's cool.
Bursts up and then pow! It's just a big explosion. Did you guys ever see that Onion video of the little 9-year-old riding Fast and Furious 5? It's kind of the same.
And then she comes in and her boobies are showing, but they're not, but they are.
I think we just wrote the third film.
And then his friend turns into a blueberry. He like turns into a mummy.
I think we just had more of a writer's room on the movie did.
Well, it was written by one guy, so yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That was the guy who just, and in his head, he's playing action figures.
He's just got Ghost Rider, little action figures. And they kiss a bunch.
Sets up a bunch of helicopters on the thing and motorcycle over.
I only had a woman, so that's gonna be Blackheart.
And then they kiss. Oh no, not Blackheart.
Not Blackheart and the devil. No.
Over at a super whimsical carnival where all the patrons are dressed like cowboys for some reason. It's because it's in the South, you know. Everybody dresses like cowboys.
Yeah. Everybody in Texas dresses like a cowboy. Yeah.
I guess it's the 70s. Maybe that's how they did it in the 70s or 80s or whenever they're supposed to take place in this show.
It's never really clear what the time period is for this movie.
I did notice at one point they say that there's like one of the ring toss games is only $2. And I looked it up and it's like in 1980, $2 was like $6.50 or something. Like, who the hell's paying that much for a carnival game? Seems like they just took a prop from a modern set and put it in there. At this carnival, we're introduced to teenager Johnny Blaze and his dad as they jump through some flaming hoops while young Roxanne, who is a spitting image of Eva Mendes, watches her boyfriend Johnny, who looks absolutely nothing like Nicolas Cage, from the crowd. Their casting was all over the place with these. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it, you mentioned there was multiple actors that they got to play?
Yeah, they had
Johnny Cage.
They had two guys up against each other for the final, casting call, and one guy looked exactly like Nic Cage, and the other guy was the guy who's in the movie, and they picked the better actor out of the two. And they did put like the nose, the same kind of Roman nose that Nic Cage has on him, but it doesn't make him look anything like Nic Cage, so it's kind of pointless.
He looked more like I don't remember his name, but Tom Hanks' son.
Colin Hanks.
Colin Hanks. Yeah, I kept thinking that's who he reminded me of.
Yeah.
Didn't look like Nicolas Cage. Johnny almost eats shit showing off for Roxanne, much to his father's displeasure. He scolds his son, calls him a hot shot who thinks he knows everything while a cigarette's hanging out of his mouth, and then he starts coughing. Gee, I wonder if that's got a significance to the story. We cut to a cliche scene of Johnny carving J+R forever into a tree, something all movies are contractually obligated to do if two characters under the age of 30 decide to hook up. Not sure why he felt the need to immortalize Juggalos and Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the same tree carving, but after desecrating this poor tree that will surely die now that the bark no longer protects the xylem and the phloem of the tree from pathogens, Roxy tells Johnny that she's leaving town. He carved a whole chunk out of the bark. It wasn't just like carving the name into it. They decide to run off together because I guess they're kids, though they look like they're in their mid-20s. Roxy asks Johnny about the show and about his dad, to which he says his dad doesn't need him and he'll meet her at the about-to-be-dead tree at noon the next day. Johnny heads home and finds his dad fast asleep in his passing out chair, something he passes on to his son, holding a photo album scrapbook with an article about he and his son's stunt show in a totally natural position on his lap, clearly pointed towards the camera so all of us can read it. It's like a stage show where everybody's just like facing out to the audience.
Yeah. So weird.
Johnny takes it and a pack of cigarettes out of his dad's hands. He chucks the cigarettes into the garbage and shakes his head in disgust at the fact that his dad smokes, even though it's a thing literally every person in America did at the time. Surprised he wasn't smoking.
Yeah. Shaking his head with a cigarette in his mouth. Damn it.
Takes one out and throws the rest in the garbage. He spots a conveniently placed piece of paper in the garbage that, wouldn't you know it, reveals that his dad has lung cancer. Who could have seen that twist coming? The thing that's funny is the paper looked like it was printed out of a printer. Like it was like somebody just printed it off their computer and it just says like, you have lung cancer.
Probably
didn't
true.
Didn't look like hospital stationery from the 70s or 80s or whatever.
He went to AOL Medical.
Print something off on your printer and then crumple it up and throw it in the thing. That's good enough. Who needs a prop department? Johnny heads to a circus tent to work on the bike, but walks in on Peter Fonda. Mephistopheles himself rolls into the carnival and blows out every bulb in the place without giving a second thought to the fact that he just cost a small business a shit ton of unexpected expenses. I guess this devil guy's a real asshole.
There's a cut scene where Peter Fonda like stops and looks at the bulbs bursting and goes far out. And I was like, thank God they cut that. So stupid. Like the devil who apparently this happens everywhere he goes for thousands of years would be like far out. I mean, I guess not thousands of years because light bulbs haven't been around for thousands of years, but maybe like flames went down.
Far out, man.
Far out.
What is even the point of that? Why would you film?
Because he said it in Easy Rider, and we gotta every time he appears in anything, we gotta do Easy Rider jokes.
God.
So there's another cut scene in the extended version where that bike that Johnny drives later on is actually his dad's bike, which is the same bike that Peter Fonda drove in Easy Rider. So Grace is actually the same bike from Easy Rider. Like, we get it, all right? You're clever.
He said even I've never seen Easy Rider, and I know Peter Fonda was an Easy Rider. That's how I was like, cool, I know why they cast him.
Motorcycles, yeah.
Yeah, it's that only one motorcycle movie people know. Johnny isn't at all surprised by this creepy dude who looks like Chancellor Palpatine showing up in the middle of the night in the seemingly empty carnival grounds until the devil asks about Johnny's father. They had the same hairstyle as Palpatine in like episode 1 or whatever.
He also
He's wearing like a cape. A lightning flash reveals the devil's shadow on the wall, and it looks like an anorexic Loki with a hunchback. It reminded me of that, what is it, the thing from Spawn, the Defiler or whatever that big monster thing is, the stick figure looking thing. He offers Johnny a deal, his soul in exchange for his father's health. Johnny laughs it off until Mephistopheles produces a national treasure scroll that apparently has some super sharp edges because Johnny cuts himself on it immediately, which causes a drop of blood to fall conveniently on the signature line, thus sealing his fate.
Okay. This is a question that I had. I thought the devil cut his finger. Like I thought the devil had moved.
It looks like he grabs the scroll top, cut his finger. That's what I thought, but it's not
kind
really
of ambiguous because I thought
it looks like he grabs it and then all of a sudden he's like and then there's just like finger drops.
Okay.
Like
Because I was wondering if as he goes to grab it, for some reason the impression I got was that the devil moved it, cutting him, tricking him. Not tricking him, but like forcing him into the servitude of being a Ghost
which
Rider.
is just like you said it. It's dumb. They should have just made him willingly do it instead of like getting on a technicality, which I don't know would hold up in mythical contract court.
Yeah, dude, he should have took that devil to court, dude. The devil
Like, look, you can sign in blood, but signing in blood implies your consent, but you clearly didn't give your consent to put your blood on the form.
Plus, Your Honor, my client's underage.
The physics of this don't make any sense. Like, how did
Hey,
it
you
go
cut your
from
finger
there
and it
down
hits
to
the bottom?
directly
I'm sure
on the
Hell has a lot
signature
of
line?
lawyers.
That's weird.
I'm sure he'd be able to get through.
Oh, dude,
get a
it's
good
just
representation.
It's stacked with lawyers and architects.
The devil smiles and gives him some bedroom eyes. Johnny wakes up in bed with a eerie feeling that he's been raped. He heads to the police station to make a report, then, he just spots his dad in the kitchen, who's bouncing around healthy as a horse. Which they say that line twice for some reason. Like,
He echoes the devil.
The devil says he'll be healthy as a horse, and then the next 30 seconds later, he's like, I'm as healthy as a horse.
Yes, he has to. We have to tie those two things together.
The scriptwriter was really proud of that line. I guess he was feeling so good that he went to the doctor, got an x-ray, got the results back, all in time that Johnny's been sleeping off the roofie the devil slipped him. Yeah, to go from the night before getting a letter saying he's got lung cancer to the next morning being like, I'm cured.
Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah, not even a jump forward in time or something, you know. His dad heads to a show on his own, even though I'm fairly sure it's a two-person show, and promptly dumps his bike onto the ground during the first jump, which somehow causes the top of both rings of fire to be destroyed, and then even more baffling, kills his dad instantly.
I have so many questions about this. Like, he just kind of dumps it on its side, and it looks like he's going over the edge of the first ramp, but then he's on the ramp when Johnny comes to him. The top of the fire rings are ripped open.
Yeah.
And, like, how would that kill him, first of all? And, like, he's got, like, some black on his leg, like he got a little burnt or something. I mean, I just feel like he must have... I don't know. I guess the implication is when he goes on his side, that's the devil killing him. He just kills his dad. I mean, that's the only thing that I can... that makes any sense to me. But how the fuck did the ring of fire get broken? Because he would have had to jump through the ring of fire, the top of it, and break him,
probably
and
hit
then
his head on it and then fall. Yeah,
but the shot of him like going sideways.
My guess is they maybe shot a stunt there, and it just turned out not looking too great. But they had to roll what they had, so they just like cut together him falling over and then the aftermath of stuff.
Just makes no sense.
It seems like it would be just easier
whatsoever.
for Adam to just do the jump and then like hit and then fall off and break his neck or something that wouldn't require a fancy effect or anything like that.
We're gonna make these fire rings cool looking, so we're gonna use that no matter what.
He just like breaks his neck or something like that. I don't remember what happens. Anyway, this actually is fairly accurate to the comic, the origin of Ghost Rider, aside from him not being a teenager and him willingly giving his soul up to save his dad.
Yeah.
But then his dad dies the next day anyway, so yeah.
I mean, I think they were implying that this 20-year-old man or mid 20-year-old man was a teenager because he looks so different from 40-something-year-old Nic Cage.
It's like, this 20-year-old grows into Nic Cage somehow. Johnny runs away from the scene on his motorcycle, but is spooked by the devil standing in a crossroads, as well as one of those floating lost soul demons' heads from Doom. I think. It biffs it on his bike.
Yeah.
The devil tells Johnny that he's no good to him dead, which I guess means he can do any crazy-ass stunt he wants and come out unscathed. In response, Johnny points at him in a super forced and unnatural way that may or may not be the signature point Ghost Rider does in the comics.
I don't know what that is. It's like...
Yeah.
That's the only time that I thought, wow, that kid nailed Nic Cage mannerisms.
He's probably there on set coaching him how to do it.
Here, I do it like this.
Tilt your head a little bit more and point, arch the fingers.
Be weird as you can.
Into space.
The devil explains that he couldn't let his father come between he and Johnny and tells him to forget about his friends, family, and love because he'll come for him when he needs him and then promptly disappears for the next 20 years or so. I guess he's not a very busy guy. If he just
I guess. He could have had
needs
love
somebody once in a generation. Yeah.
He could have had all the things he wanted this entire time and then took a little short sabbatical away from it to kill Blackheart and then go back to his normal life.
Right. The devil seems pretty accommodating when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And he lets him do all the stunts for the whole time.
It really doesn't, right. And he doesn't really seem to care that he, like, as long as he does what he wants him to do, he just seems to okay to let him have his life. But
he's a pretty good boss, actually.
Yeah. You get hired then you get 20 years before they actually make you do any work. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Not a lot of like oversight for this bounty hunter job.
And he's got all the perks. He doesn't die during these crashes or anything. He's immortal.
Well, that was a big question that I had throughout was like, is Johnny actually in charge of himself? Like, is he actually the master of his own fate? Like, he's doing these crazy stunts, but is the devil keeping him alive, and they kind of answer that later on. It was like, no, I didn't. That was all you, Johnny. But
he says though he was there for all those jumps.
Yes, watching from the sidelines as his investment gets better and better at riding motorcycle, because that's what he needed to do in order to be a better Ghost Rider, I guess.
Well, you can't have a Ghost Rider without a mount, so it just doesn't look right. It looks stupid. Whether it's a horse or a motorcycle or a muscle car. Yeah. That's the new Ghost Rider.
Ghost Driver.
Yeah. The new one's a teenager who has a muscle car. It's actually pretty cool.
All right.
Finally, we cut to the goddamn legend himself, 14 minutes into this thing. Nicolas Cage's eyes come into frame, revealing that the 20-something-year-old kid from the previous scene who looks nothing like Nicolas Cage is actually 41-year-old Nicolas Cage. He's a world-famous motorcycle daredevil, who literally can't die no matter how insane the stunt is, but the devil is cool with this unless Johnny decides to love someone or something. Johnny's dreams have come true as he does a jump over a football field full of semi-trucks with thousands of drunk rednecks cheering on. Things don't go as planned, though, and Johnny slams his face into the front tire of his bike as he goes ass over tea kettle at the end of the jump. Was that a practical stunt? Because it looked like it.
That was actually
cool.
Practical. Both he and the bike were on a cable, but the face hitting the front tire was not planned. They didn't expect that. He ended up going unconscious, and when he woke up, the first thing he said was it usable? And so they used it in the movie, and apparently that's what all stuntmen say is like, hey, if I get injured, as long as it looks cool, you should use it in the movie. You shouldn't have any qualms about that. That's, that was exactly what the stuntman said, was like, yes, I got hurt, but it looked cool. Use it.
Yeah. I also counted, I think, at least 24 trucks lined up. I stopped at one point and tried to count them all. So I didn't know how to measure the distance out. I did it later for the Blackhawks. You also did it. So
I did, yeah.
That was kind of nice. But I just want to say he jumps over at least 24 semi-trucks sat next to each other.
But he doesn't have love this time, so he screws up the jump. But next time, instant, super easy. Super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Not even.
Wow.
Yeah. Not even a moment of doubt.
Yeah.
As he clears those helicopters.
His trained staff of helpers run to his aid because they're positive he just broke his neck. They pull his helmet off immediately and smack him in the face, severing his spine, leaving him a helpless quadriplegic. Oh, wait, no, he's fine. He throws on some shades and points crazily to the crowd who cheer for the guy who didn't land the jump they all just paid money to see him make. I think that's real. I think that's everybody secretly wants to watch him crash anyway.
Those
on
points
the two of us
are nuts, though. Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. It's
That's definitely a Nic Cageism there, yeah.
On the tour bus, all motorcycle stuntmen have tour buses and do shows in every town in America, right? I guess they were harkening back to Evel Knievel, but this is also
I just don't feel like
after Evel Knievel.
Like Evel Knievel even was like every frickin', like he's just constantly on tour. Like it's like one every year or one every 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, it was the 2000s. They didn't have a lot of entertainment available, so I guess. What, you want to go watch Ghost Rider in
the internet hadn't been invented.
It was a different
TV
time.
was just on the cups of being created.
Nic Cage sports a goofy-looking cowboy hat that looks like they bought it 10 minutes before the scene was shot and enjoys some jelly beans out of a martini glass, as you do.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
It's martini glass.
He gets bummed out when Mac, the movie's comic relief, won't switch the channel back to a documentary about howler monkeys and instead watches a report about how Johnny Blaze doesn't seem to be able to die no matter how crazy the stunt.
Do you notice that
Mac
the jelly
says,
beans are all yellow and red throughout the entire movie?
Yeah.
Little details.
Cageism.
I think it was because it was the fire colors, so red and yellow.
Oh, yeah. All right, Dan. I was going to say, it wouldn't surprise me if Nic Cage only eats lemon and cherry jelly beans or something in that combination.
You want some jellies? One of my favorite lines of the whole movie. Want some jellies?
There's a later part in his loft where he sits in a passing out chair with the jellies, but he's drinking jelly beans instead of... Max says Johnny should be dead after the crash. Johnny says he got lucky, to which Max says he's got a hunting dog named Lucky who's got one eye and no nuts, and that Johnny has an angel looking after him. For some reason, I'm picturing an angel with one eye and no nuts snapping his fingers while watching them wrench the helmet off Johnny's lifeless body after a neck injury to heal Johnny's severed nerves. Also, I thought that was weird. Like, he's got one eye and no nuts. Like, yeah, a lot of dogs have no nuts. That doesn't seem like a grievous injury to bring up.
He's lucky, you know?
To say he's got one eye and 3 legs or something.
Yeah, well, the no nuts thing is pretty universal for most dogs.
That's what I mean. It's standard. Like, you probably don't see in an accident, unless it was an accident. But nobody accidentally removes their dog's leg, you know, or willingly removes their dog's leg.
Maybe he jumped over a barbed wire fence.
Ow. Suddenly, sorry. Yeah, and then they're like, maybe it's something, what did they say? Maybe he's got a one-eyed angel, or one-eyed. Maybe he's got a guardian angel watching him, and Johnny says, maybe it's something else. And he looks into the window, and there's a skull reflection over his face. Spooky. Suddenly, fire rains down into the desert from skull-shaped clouds, and the most emo-looking bad guy of all time appears and makes a super dumb, over-the-top CG demon face directly into the camera, punctuated by the sound of a 9-year-old girl screaming, making sure audiences around the world will instantly hate this stupid as fuck spooky character. Ooh. That's the introduction to Blackheart.
Yeah. Can't tell. We weren't big fans of Blackheart, nor his Lost Boys.
His boy band.
No.
His Lost Boys.
Zach Bagans looking ass. Eyeliner McDouchebag makes his way into a biker bar conveniently located in the middle of desolate nothingness, but is stopped by a chubby neckbeard who says, "I think you might be lost, boy." To which he says, "No, you're thinking of The Lost Boys, which is a much better movie than this. I'm Blackheart, a pretty badass character from Marvel Comics who in no way resembles an effeminate teenage goth kid wearing his mom's pantsuit and scarf who looks like he could be blown over by a stiff breeze." Or at least that's how I remember the scene going down. Blackheart then puts a finger on the biker's chest and mummifies him down to a shell of his former self, which on the bright side did help him lose some weight. Johnny apparently lives in the Texas equivalent of Compton, according to Mac, and he rambles on about how Johnny doesn't have a lock on his elevator and bitches at his meal ticket about doing an insane jump he has planned for the anniversary of his dad's death. All the while, Johnny eats jelly beans, listens to the Carpenters, and laughs hysterically watching a monkey doing karate in a way that totally isn't overacting and totally wasn't just the director saying, "Hey, point and laugh at the screen like you're watching something comically funny." And then later at the end of the scene, he puts spooky, scary skeletons on the TV and watches that.
I love Nic Cage, man. Mm-hmm. You're laughing at the monkeys. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Johnny tells Mac that he's looking for a sign of some sort that proves he's actually the one controlling whether or not he dies in his stunts instead of the devil, and if it's possible that he can have a second chance at fixing his mistakes, like if he's got free will and can self-determine his life. Mm-hmm. Back at the Desolation Bar, Blackheart has turned all the bikers into spooky blue mummies for no discernible reason, except, I guess, in order to make a dirt demon named Gressel appear. So this guy chooses to spend an eternity being walked on by drunk bikers at a bar out in the middle of the desert. But then a water demon named Wallow, Jesus, appears out of nowhere like a super disappointing and dumb version of the T-1000 whose eye runs down his face like he's melting and then he flicks it away. I know this is a comic book movie, but all this shit feels like a 12-year-old wrote it.
It did.
His eye comes down his face.
He flicked it away.
He flicks it away. Yeah, cool.
And then it comes back normal.
Suddenly, a Rastafarian fart demon called Abagor blows into the bar, and the four of them make super dumb faces at each other for a while as they form a pact to find the lost scroll of San Vengaza and rule the earth somehow. And with their powers combined, earth, wind, water, eyeliner. Form Captain Letdown. Yep, these are anti-heroes. Better lower your expectations down to 0.
Worst batch of bad guys. Yes, exactly. Worst batch of bad guys ever freaking created.
It's laughing
I love when you said wallow. Jesus.
I looked it up. I think Greciel and Abigor are actual demon names.
I think they're all real, aside from Blackheart. But
if somebody would have just called Sam and Dean from Supernatural, this all could have been avoided. It really did feel like a bad setup for a Supernatural episode. Shot like a low-budget TV version of spooky monsters showing up to scare teenage girls.
Expected Blackheart's eyes to just suddenly do that black eye thing that they did in Supernatural all the time.
We cut to an establishing shot of an arena called the Sobe Dome, which is just about the perfect mid-2000s name for a sport arena that I can imagine. It's the day of Johnny's big stunt, and we see him sporting a cane that looks oddly similar to the one the devil carries around with him. What was with the cane? Was it supposed to be from the accident, or was he just wanted to carry a cool,
I just think he wanted to look cool
cane? I thought they were trying to imply that he was injured, but he's not because he's immortal. So, it was weird.
Yeah, maybe
it's never in the rest of the movie.
If we go through the timeline of him crashing in that previous one,
it's like the next day.
Yeah, we don't really know how long in between those two things are, but
we don't know
maybe that actually was.
Yeah, we don't know how long it was from when he first shows up as an adult to the very end of the film. It could have been just 2 days, it could have been 2 years. We have no fucking clue.
His pregame prep is to blast the Carpenters while chugging Scott Halding. His pregame prep is to blast the Carpenters while chugging scalding hot coffee straight from the pot and giving himself a pep talk in the mirror while wearing some glasses that are oddly shaped like the eyes of the Ghost Rider skull. Are we laying it on too thick yet? Or are we good? He even has flames on his cane.
His pip cane.
What is with the scalding hot coffee? Like, he just takes it right
Have
off
you ever
of the
tried
thing.
that? Just drink it straight out of the...
No, I haven't.
It's a good way to probably burn your esophagus and everything horribly.
Yeah.
I have a cup of coffee here. I wouldn't even want to just chug it. It would be too hot. Johnny heads to do the jump, but stops dead in his track when he somehow hears the voice of his former love over the top of dozens of people yelling at him in a hallway for interviews. Johnny agrees to do an interview with Roxy, who is like a really good reporter, you guys. It's obvious Eva Mendes really practiced the nuances to really hone her performance as a small-town reporter, or big town. Who the fuck knows what town this is in? It's somewhere in Texas.
Yeah, it's actually Melbourne,
Australia.
Yeah, when you see the skyline in the background, it's Melbourne.
In case you're wondering, Eva Mendes is 10 years younger than Nic Cage, but they were both kids together for this movie. That's kind of on brand for Nic Cage, though.
Well, it's Hollywood.
10 years is actually kind of on the older end of his love interests. They have a flirty exchange where Roxy in no way, shape, or form gets anything usable for the news and leaves her producer in shock at what an absolute shit show of a garbage reporter she is before she shakes her ass at Johnny and saunters off to probably get fired for not doing the only thing she's paid to do. It's really hard to overstate how awkward this interview is. The culmination of it consists with Roxy asking Johnny if his career as a stunt rider ever comes with any costs aside from the physical toll it takes on his body. And Johnny's response is a very Cagian, yeah.
Spot on.
Bravo.
I was like, was this Nic Cage that wants Johnny to seem like a total idiot in this scene? Like, I guess he's supposed to be love-struck.
Yeah, he's love-struck, yeah.
He's also kind of dumb in a lot of the other parts of the movie, too, so that's just...
That is true. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what was going on there. I figure he's just so excited to see her and he's so overjoyed by her presence that he couldn't give two shits about actually answering any questions. He just wants to know about her and reconnect with her, So she gets absolutely nothing usable whatsoever. Like, not a second of that could be in the freaking news.
Johnny interprets seeing his long-lost love, who clearly wasn't lost because he's been watching her on TV, and intentionally chose the city she works in as a reporter for his big jump as a sign that he now has a second chance to make things right, because she could have said no to him during the absolute train wreck of an interview she did with him.
She could have said no to the interview.
She could have said no to doing the interview. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
He didn't ask her anything in the interview. But, although he asked if he said, I heard you got married, and she said that didn't happen. So I don't know if he was just misinformed or what he's leading her on. Like,
well, she's also married, really excited to tell him, like, no, I'm totally available. So she's like,
it's like they just regress back to being 16-year-old. Take it down, Mike. Johnny heads to do the jump, where Mac is excited that they removed the cars he was supposed to jump over. But wouldn't you know it, Johnny replaced the cars with helicopters that fly in with their propellers damn near hitting each other through the roof that opens in seconds flat and land perfectly in the middle of the field, evenly spaced apart. How his manager didn't know that he was hiring 6 Black Hawk helicopters to perfectly show up at the moment he walks out on the field is really shitty manager, for one. Otherwise, also, it just stretches the bonds of all belief.
There's no way in hell that there's a roof that opens up that quickly to well, he gets up on the top of the ramp and then the whole roof just opens up in seconds and then
also, I don't think there's any way in hell that even military pilots would take 6 choppers abreast to try to land them on a football field.
But probably that part's the most believable part of the whole scene.
Well, fun fact, 6 Black Hawk helicopters cannot fit into a 300-foot span. The diameter of their main rotors is 54 feet, allowing for absolutely zero space between their rotors. That would total 324 feet. However, an actual goalpost to goalpost jump would be 360 feet, so they could narrowly fit in there. The goalposts, however, are misplaced. They can clearly be seen at the goal line, which explains why the jump is measured at 300 feet. In reality, actual goalposts are back at the end of the end zone, making them 360 feet apart, when they're not a CG construct for a really dumb scene.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say,
it's Australia.
Did anybody actually go to? Yeah, true. But it's like, did these guys not?
They filmed this in a soccer field?
Yep. And they put it in, and apparently, they had already put them at the goal lines when they showed up to film the scene, and they were like, "Oh, well, nobody will notice."
I didn't notice.
I saw that. I was like, wait a minute. Has anybody ever been to an NFL game that shot this movie or worked on it?
I didn't notice that, but I did look up the research of the rotors on the Blackhawks, because that bugged the shit out of me. Like, how long was this jump actually? Johnny finds out at the last second that Roxy left the building, so he fires up the bike and does the jump while none of his crew are expecting it, nor in position in case something goes wrong. But it turns out all he needed was seeing Roxy to make it to where he could do a world record-setting jump like it was nothing. The announcer proudly blares that the jump was 300 feet, which we just established is not possible with the setup that they have. Quick fact, the real world record for a motorcycle jump is 351 feet and was set by Robbie Madison a year after this movie released. So,
if he had inspiration.
It is possible to do a 300-foot jump. That's part of the reason I looked that up. I was like, is this even in the realm of possibility? I doubt he had a little ramp that he probably had a lot larger lead off to do it. But
but he's not Johnny Blaze.
Right?
Do you remember where the helicopter blades going at the time?
Yes. Yeah.
Would that cause some sort of updraft and screw up his jump?
Or a downdraft, wouldn't it?
It just pulls him right into the blades. It just cut him apart. Then the devil resets everything. Damn it, not again. He has to be alive for this crap.
He then speeds off through the hallways of the stadium and down an elevator or an escalator or down several flights of stairs or something off screen and catches up to Roxy and her cameraman on the interstate. He flirts with her and the cameraman while doing tricks at 70 miles an hour before stopping his bike in the middle of the road, thus blocking traffic on a busy freeway and ruining hundreds of people's day. Then Nick hits her with a howdy. Then he rapily makes out with the girl he hasn't seen in 20 years And she agrees to go out with him for some Italian.
Italian.
That's the way he says
You
it.
still like
Still
Italian?
like Italian? The
'Cause
scene
he's from
ends
Texas.
not with the people. The scene ends not with the people stuck on the freeway murdering him, but instead a mob of meth addicts and mouth breathers begging him for his autograph because they all recognize him in their giant traffic jam he's created on the interstate. Then, magical Mr. Mephistopheles and the members of Breaking Benjamin meet up in the park for a chit-chat, complete with some terrible editing and some more dumb looks on our dumb characters' dumb faces. It ends with the devil calling his favorite creation to take care of these absolute doofuses, the Ghost Rider.
That scene isn't the same at all in the extended cut. The extended cut actually happens at the bar. It's very similar, but it's just the two of them. So it's Blackheart and Mephistopheles just kind of chit-chatting back and forth about how like he's disappointed in him and, oh, Dad, your time has come, and you know, all that same stupid dialogue, but not in a park for like why were they in that park?
I don't know.
Seems like a good place to meet, devils.
Probably didn't have a permit. They just went to some park at night, filmed it. Really
I feel
quick.
like the other version was much better with them being meeting
It
at
seems
the
like it
bar.
would be.
Like he
Yeah.
immediately picks
Like, as
up
soon
on the
as he
fact
shows
that
up.
he's there and that he's causing mayhem, and the devil
Yeah.
comes to rectify things.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
Roxy anxiously awaits Johnny at the restaurant and decides to consult the magic 8-ball oracle she has stashed away in her purse. You know, everyone carries around a full-size magic 8-ball everywhere they go, right? It's not just us, her and I. Well, she apparently doesn't get the answer she's looking for and decides to get trashed on wine, which I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a wine hangover, but it's miserable.
Brutal.
Pretty bad.
Yeah. A lot of sugar.
What is with the 8-ball? Like, I guess we could save it, but like, is it just to make her character seem quirky and
Childish,
fun?
I guess.
A
I don't know.
little joke to throw in there. She's like a 40-year-old woman. Or supposed to be. She's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't understand that part either. I just kind of figured it's like this is their way of like trying to make her fun and quirky. And
I think it's supposed to be like she's not sure if she should be there, but she wants to be, but she doesn't know if, she's not sure if she can trust this guy who broke her heart 20 years ago.
yeah. I mean, none of that was coming.
But she's got to consult a novelty toy about it,
Yeah,
and then get sloshed on wine.
that's how she. Maybe we're misinterpreting it. Maybe she's asking the 8-ball she should get hammered on wine tonight.
Then she pulls out a rabbit's foot right after that. I was
Well,
asking
he
the
loves
8-ball
me,
for
he
this.
Playing He Loves Me Not with a flower at the table.
Well, meanwhile, Johnny hasn't even left the damn house yet. He's busy psyching himself out in the mirror while dressed like Johnny Cash when suddenly he gets a little hot under the collar. His hands start to smoke and glow red. Johnny somehow hears the distinct revving of his motorcycle outside, over a block away in a busy city neighborhood somewhere in Texas. I'm telling you guys, these fucking motorcycles are way too goddamn loud, dude. We just need to ban them.
I hate motorcycles so much, man.
Yeah, me
Actually, no. I like motorcycles. I hate motorcyclists because I've never run across somebody who rides one of those things who doesn't ride it like an absolute douchebag. Just, let's rev it in this quiet neighborhood. Drive by, rumble people's windows 3 blocks away.
I support all motorcyclists and motorcyclist lives. Johnny finds his bike on the street, revving, but not vibrating in the slightest, and then repeats his completely unnatural and weird as hell point from the Ghost Rider comics when he spots the devil himself.
I don't know what this is.
Conveniently standing next to some product placement. Gotta love Texaco, don't you guys?
Why is there a
I
Texaco in the
haven't heard of
alleyway?
Texaco in a long time.
Just
Texaco still exists?
Yeah,
Yep.
they
Yeah,
have
they're
to.
still around.
But it's just one of those things like this. I felt like from 2000 to 2010, there was just a ton of corporate sponsorship or promotion in these
man.
big budget films.
These big budgets got to happen somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pay back the extra $55 million that Nick Cage
That's
demanded.
a question. So his dad was smoking Marlboros. Do you think Marlboro paid for product placement of this
For
their product
cancer? For
causing
lung cancer?
or do they just use Marlboro's thing and it's good
No,
question.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there was just a lot of like cross promotion and contracts and all that stuff.
Although they were probably like, that cigarettes didn't kill him. So see, they're good. Buy our cigarettes, you won't die from cancer.
Maybe it's that same brand from Gone in 60 Seconds. What was that? Impotence or what?
Oh yeah,
Impotent cigarettes.
for the man that can't get a hard on. He explains that all the stunts Johnny's performed were his own, and he's been proudly watching him from the sidelines. But today is the day when he cashes in on his investment. He tells Johnny to find and destroy Blackheart, and, important detail here, has complete control of him, including his hands, feet, while they're on the bike, as well as the motorcycle itself. And like you pointed out earlier, never comes back into play ever again. He loses.
He never
after
has
he sends
control
him
of
out
him.
there. Yeah, can never
Can't stop
control him again.
the old Ghost Rider who was on a horse riding away. Couldn't stop him from taking the scroll and running away. And then at the end of the movie, spoilers, he can't stop Johnny from doing what he wants to do. Johnny does whatever the hell he wants at the end, and then
Yeah.
so
Maybe
why?
he can only control him in the very narrow constraints of when he needs him to do a specific thing, he can control him, which is go hunt down Blackheart. And maybe with the original Ghost Rider, he needed him to collect the souls, but couldn't control him once he got the souls. Like he's like, I'm just gonna run off with the scroll or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Just trying
Also,
to turn logic
so-
on an unlogical thing.
They kind of confirmed here, my question of like, was it actually Johnny performing his own stunts? Or was it the devil helping him and making it to where he couldn't die? Because he seems like he should have died from that last one, or the first one, where he smashes his face on the tire. So I guess the devil didn't have anything to do with it, and it was always Johnny. I guess.
Yeah.
Did that make sense? Did it come across clear for you
No,
guys?
I thought the devil was still keeping him alive, and he was just
I thought Johnny
I was
was doing
watching you do. You did the
Yeah.
stunts, Johnny, but I kept you from dying when you crashed
Exactly.
that one time.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought too.
Okay.
Anytime he had a serious crash, the devil kept him alive because he needs
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like I was not helping him do the jump.
Yeah.
I just made sure he didn't die when he didn't
Yeah.
stick the landing.
Yeah.
They also kind of mentioned like Mac, says like you should have died from that, and then there was the TV report that was like he's like ludicrous stunts that he does. He never gets injured. He's just fine all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder with this control thing, because he starts to learn to control the powers as the movie goes along. So maybe that's him also breaking the control of the devil over him, so that by the end he can do what he wants, and the devil doesn't have any power over him.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
bet that's
That
where they were
makes sense.
going with it. It just wasn't established
Yeah, that
very
makes
well.
sense. He tells Johnny that if he succeeds, he'll return his soul, giving Johnny exactly what he's wanted all along, which is a second chance. But instead, he says he's not going to do it, but the devil makes him do it anyways. That's what I tell Shiloh every time I fuck up. The devil made me do it.
I didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it. The devil made me do it. The bike then tears ass through the city, destroying everything in its wake, including the pavement, starting at Johnny's and ending at the scene of some murders that are about to happen. The bike comically sets fire to everything it passes, blows up cars, billboards, etc. And that's not because he's Ghost Rider, that's just because he's on a motorcycle.
They're a menace.
They're a menace.
Ban him.
They're a menace.
Can't tell you how many times I had a motorcycle drive by and flip a car into a pawn shop window just from the loud
Just
decibels,
from the exhaust.
sound waves.
Over at the train yard, a country bumpkin version of Peter Griffin patrols the grounds with an old-timey kerosene lamp instead of a flashlight for some reason, and spots Earth, Wind, and Failure getting ready to smoke pot and blast the Cure or something. Oh wait, it's just Breaking Benjamin making more dumb faces, giggling and making stupid growling noises at the guy while asking what happened to the graveyard that used to be there. He says St. Michael's Church oversaw the relocation, and then Pinkheart does a reverse Willy Wonka and turns the guy into a shriveled blueberry. But on the bright side, he did help him lose some weight. Johnny arrives at a nearby warehouse or something, and smoke starts coming out of his eyes. His feet burst into flames and his skin catches fire. Nic Cage finally gets to go full Nic Cage and laughs maniacally with an insane grin on his face as he transforms into the fiery skeleton man that is Ghost Rider. At long last, 43 minutes into this thing, we finally get Ghost Rider.
His laughing really reminded me of Bruce Campbell. From
Yeah, it did, yeah, it
like the way he did the facial expressions and like cameras like zoomed in on his face rotating around.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was inspiration for it, because it does feel
I felt
very
like it
Bruce
did.
Campbell. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's where he took that from. Just to pay a nice
When he turns
little
into
nod.
badass or whatever, and he's laughing like crazy.
Blackheart somehow knew all this was going on from somewhere off screen and slow claps him while sporting this dumb look that is permanently etched onto his stupid face from start to finish in this movie. Ghost Rider gives him the signature point and tells him to go back to hell. Just great writing. Jesus. Suddenly,
I was so
the
confused
Rastafarian-
of like, why is he in like a nearby place and not like where Blackheart and Earth, Wind, and Failure were hanging out? It was like just off in some warehouse, like just a little bit away from
alleyway.
it. We got to have a place where he can transform, where cameras are big enough to where there's enough room for cameras to go around him and stuff.
It had to be, it had to be that just so they could do the 360 spin on his transformation. Because, I mean, why not just have him show up at the train yard and transform there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's there. He's at the train yard. He's just in a warehouse that's next to where they were. And I guess they heard him screaming. And then Blackheart showed up, clapping from off screen. Oh, that was amazing. I saw your transformation from clear the fuck down there a block and a half away.
Suddenly, the Rastafarian fart demon swoops in to cause Johnny to hang from a chain and die. The credits roll and... he's just fine because he's a flaming skeleton possessed by Satan. He pulls the chain down to use an attack against Blackheart, but
He
is
doesn't even
stopped
have
by...
a windpipe. Like, how are you supposed to choke to death? Get on my chain.
You're looking into this too deep because none of this stuff makes sense. Because he pulls the chain down to use an attack against Blackheart, but is stopped by a sentient puddle of piss and then is run over by a semi truck. So none of this makes sense. Merciful.
You know, the director sort of said that on the commentary. It was like, if you're looking into this deep, you're not like, what are you doing? This is a comic book movie. It's, and I'm like, I get it, but still. You're setting this in reality. Let's try and have some reality to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I guess we're thinking too much of it. Well,
What? No, we're spending 4 hours talking about this movie. How could we possibly be thinking too much into it?
well, the dirt demon gets out of the truck and looks around ridiculously like he's Jason Statham before Ghost Rider appears somehow unscathed, punches him in the face, and then burns him to death with a hot chain or turns him into glass or something because he's dirt.
I
He just
guess
dries
that's what
out.
it was. It's like he
Bakes him?
makes him so hot that he turns into glass, which I don't think you can turn dirt into glass, can you?
No, but
it
he
has
can
to be
fire
certain.
like clay or whatever. So yeah, like sand turns into glass.
Yeah. So is this guy sand or is he dirt, or he looks like dirt? He was on the floor of the biker bar and walked on by bikers because that's his fetish.
But it was in the desert, so maybe it's sand.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, then we'll call him the Sand Demon.
It's my
He's
major
Sandman.
problem with this movie. Like, he's not threatened by any of these villains whatsoever. Like, he just mops the floor with them, and he's an immortal demon. Basically, he gets hit by a truck and just shrugs it off.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do they even think they could stop him one by one with their stupid little elemental powers?
Why do they all attack him one by one instead of all, really joining in? It's always like,
Right.
like the piss puddle demon grabbed him by the legs and then the guy drove into him. That's like the only time that they work together.
Like when he has the guy wrapped in the chain, the dirt guy, the two other guys could have been attacking him, and Blackheart could have been, Instead, it comically cuts to like just an empty shot of them. They just took off.
Yeah.
I love that shot. He's like, "Help me!" And it just cuts to wind blowing leaves
See ya.
across an empty roadway. They're just gone.
Yeah, I never understood that. I was like, why? Like, they just like had this weird honor rule of 1v1, even though he's whooping the ass of each guy he comes up against.
Well, they took off because they know that there's no way they can actually beat him. They have to figure out a way to like trick him and
Right.
Yeah, because they do get more creative down the road, and we'll get
So
there.
it's always it's always great when your protagonist is so powerful that the bad guys immediately know they have no chance against him and just leave, even though the guy's literally never done this before, and this is the first time.
Yeah,
he only turned into Ghost Rider like less than 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It's great for storytelling.
Mercifully, 1/4 of Captain Letdown is dispatched faster than an animatronic at Willy's Wonderland, and we're one idiotic, hilariously laughable, dumb shit villain closer to the end of this gang. Ghost Rider whips the chain around his body and then whistles for his bike, despite not having lips, mind you. He then turns his bike into the famous Hell Cycle, which looks like something out of an American Chopper and sounds like a weed eater for some reason.
I will say, as corny as all this was, I thought it was awesome. I really liked
the Hell Cycle.
Just the whole thing, the whole Ghost Rider introduction, like him getting the chain, whipping the guys, and it was a cool, faithful recreation of Ghost Rider. I was really impressed.
Man, like I said, I honestly, when I first saw this movie, I loved it. I thought it was great because it was, Ghost Rider. I mean, who the hell thought we would ever get a Ghost Rider movie? But
Yeah.
it doesn't hold up quite as well in hindsight, and especially after seeing 10 years of amazing Marvel movies.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to look at this one without seeing its flaws, but still, I still like it. I don't know.
We'll talk more about it at the end, but yeah, it's not as bad as we're making fun of it for.
Ghost Rider tears through the city some more before stopping a guy mugging Rebel Wilson, who, important detail, happens to have the most funny scenes in the entire film. He growls at him like a T-Rex and gives us what we've all been waiting for, the penance stare. He points at the dude, says he's guilty, lifts him into the air and tells him to look into his eyes, where the mugger sees and feels all the sins he's ever committed, which will now play out in his head until the day he dies. But at least he gets to sport some dope-looking black eyes that would have been better suited for the villains of this movie in order to make them even remotely scary looking in the slightest. Also, the dude stabs Ghost Rider, which with a switchblade in the shoulder. That's an important detail that we'll talk a little bit more about later on.
It just melts at first, like the blade just melts.
Ghost Rider then heads to a cemetery where the light of the sun transforms him and his bike back to normal. He crawls to a nearby grave that just so happens to be his father's. Luckily, Sam Elliott is there to call him a bonehead and spit a mouthful of tobacco on him.
He kind of spits it off to the side, but I just picture him spitting it right on him.
Yeah.
Bonehead. Hey, I just met you.
Johnny Wake. Hey, what the fuck, bro? We just met. Johnny wakes up at a church and downs a bunch of water that the caretaker of this church knew to put there. Johnny heads outside of the caretaker and tells Johnny he's the Ghost Rider and that he'll need his help if he expects to defeat the super easy to defeat rest of the bad guys. That part had me laughing.
The bad guys that he only didn't defeat because they ran away.
Yeah,
he could have just handled all four of them.
You're gonna need my
I was
help.
watching it. It's like, these guys are the worst villains, and he easily dispatched the one dude. I don't think the rest are going to be that difficult.
I was Ghost Rider for 30 seconds and I killed one of these fallen angels. I think I can handle it.
I think I'll be good. We see Roxy doing what she does best, reporting on the carnage caused by Ghost Rider the night before, and says experts have tied the massacre at the bar from earlier to what happened at the train station.
Because they're mummies? Like there was a mummified dude?
I don't know.
How would you even link that to a person when you see like a whole bar full of mummified dudes that are all blue, and then you see Peter Griffin on the ground, he's all blue. I mean, like, I guess you tie those things together because it's like, wow, that's weird.
Same
Okay,
thing,
they must be the same thing. I don't know how that's even humanly possible to do, but okay.
Right.
Must be the same killer.
happened.
They just need to introduce a pointless cop character, investigator guy
Yes, true.
that sort of slows the plot down for a little bit but doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, literally had no effect on the movie.
I think the whole point of introducing those cops was so that he could have that jail cell scene where he freaks out and turns into Ghost Rider because there's so much evil around him.
Yep. And he gets the bitchin' spike jacket from the comics.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, touche. You know what? Okay, I stand by that. Put that scene in now. Sam Elliott provides Johnny some much-needed exposition as to what exactly the job of the Ghost Rider is, and sews up a cut on his shoulder from the switchblade. But I guess getting run over by a semi-truck didn't cause any damage.
Yeah. Or strangling, getting choked unconscious.
Everything else that injures him in any way doesn't actually injure him outside of being Ghost Rider. So he gets shot like 1,000 times later. He gets his jaw broken off. He gets run over by a semi-truck.
They did a reverse comic accuracy where if he's injured as Johnny Blaze, when he turns into Ghost Rider, all the injuries are gone. But when he turns back into Johnny Blaze, he still retains the injuries that he had before from when he was human form. So it's like they sort of tried to adapt that, but did it wrong and then didn't follow through on it.
But he was cut with the switchblade while he was Ghost Rider.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They didn't do it wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't do it properly.
Yeah, they failed at what they were trying to do.
Unless he just got some nasty cut after he turned back into Johnny Blaze when he was crawling through the cemetery. Maybe some guy tried to mug him after he was laying unconscious at his father's grave.
Could be.
Maybe the caretaker just spit on him and then cut him in the back. I don't like you,
Just so he could
motherfucker.
have something to do. To gain his trust.
Been sitting here for 150 years.
Yes, he has, because he tells Johnny that the last Ghost Rider came along 150 years ago, and I'm gonna fuck this up. It's
Sam Venganza.
Sam
Venganza, right?
Benghazi.
Benghazi.
Sam Benghazi.
He tells Johnny that the last Ghost Rider came along 150 years ago in San Venganza.
Tells Johnny he's got to find John Podesta's emails to solve it. Sam Benghazi.
where everyone in the city turned on each other like the plot of Needful Things, and the city drowned in blood. He also explains that the super dumb bad guys are fallen angels cast out of heaven who hide in the elements waiting for the end of days. Finally, he says that he should hang around the cemetery because the demons can't step on hallowed ground. Another important detail.
Yeah.
Instead, Johnny heads into town to find Roxanne and sees the damage he did the night before. Roxy is busy interviewing Rebel Wilson, who steals the show and continues to provide some much needed actual comedy to this movie.
Move over, Mac. Rebel Wilson stole your spot as a comic relief.
Johnny and Roxy have an exchange where Roxy breaks poor Johnny's heart by telling him her father was right in saying that he was just a phase. Then a forensic guy finds Johnny's license plate from his bike in the street. Johnny heads home and makes some goofy faces in the mirror to try to trigger his powers while sporting abs so tight, people are still trying to figure out if they were actually fake. How many girls and boys have paused that scene and rubbed one out over the years, do you think? I mean, would it be weird if somebody did that? I'll just ask it for a friend, guys.
No. Glistening.
He bones up on some Faust and learns how to control his powers, but is interrupted by Roxy, who comes to apologize for what she said earlier. She makes out with Johnny, but he pushes her away. She asks what his deal is, and he tells her the truth about selling his soul to the devil, being Ghost Rider, and tells her that she should run on home so she doesn't get hurt, while she's eyeing the door to run away, but doesn't. She just sticks around. That whole scene was confusing because it's like this. I kind of get like it's supposed to be like this back and forth between them, but she doesn't really. I don't know. It just didn't really understand.
She still loves the guy, and she wants to connect with him again, and like he obviously likes her because he did that whole crazy stunt to like get her to go out with him, and then there had to be a reason why he didn't show up for dinner. So she's trying to figure out what the fuck that is, and then he comes out with this story, and of course she's just like, all right, well, I gotta go.
Right. Like he's telling her like all this stuff right after she just did a report on all this crazy stuff. And there's people who've been mummified, and she's like, no, he's just crazy, but I still love him.
Yeah. Well, she's a love interest in a crappy movie. She's gotta love him no matter what.
Yeah, true. I mean, she
even though from her perspective, he doesn't really have a lot of redeeming qualities right now.
No, he has no qualities at all.
Yeah.
Other than those abs.
Those abs.
She of course doesn't believe him and says she's walking out the door forever. She takes off, and Johnny is abruptly surrounded by half of the police department of this still unnamed Texas town. They arrest him for burning down half the city and somehow mummifying a dozen people in another super cliche good cop, bad cop scene. Like, he's a stuntman who has no history of any of this stuff, and they automatically just assume that he has...
Because they found his license plate.
Yeah.
They assume that he's the murderer.
In the middle of a bunch of other debris.
I mean, that's what you
That was
do.
also scorched.
When you're famous, you just you develop supernatural powers and you go on murder sprees.
All this though sets up probably one of the better scenes, right? Because they throw him in a cell full of bad guys, which triggers his Ghost Rider powers. He penance stares a skinhead and steals his jacket, completing his full comic book look, and melts the bars to the cell, then steals his health cycle from lockup.
The scene with he points at the kid, and the kid is innocent. It's innocent.
Because he gets out while he's penance there.
I just wish that there was a little bit of Nic Cage in that voice. I think the voice is cool, but I wish it was just a little bit of semblance of Nicolas Cage, because when Nicolas Cage isn't on screen as Ghost Rider, it's kind of a waste because he's still playing Ghost Rider. We've seen the behind the scene pictures. He did play Ghost Rider in those scenes, but you really didn't even need him there for that because you're not even using his vocal performance. So whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said before, a cop breaks his jaw off with a nightstick, which he promptly puts back into place. I wonder if we'll see a scene coming up of the caretaker sewing his jaw back on. Spoiler alert, no, because apparently the only thing that ever has to be healed when he transforms back is that stab wound. Yeah. He gives the cop what is this?
Dikembe Mutombo.
He gives the cop a Dikembe
Mutombo.
Dikembe Mutombo.
Dikembe Mutombo. Okay. He gives the cop a Dikembe Mutombo. That's a tongue twister. He gives the cop a Dikembe Mutombo finger wave and heads out into the night. Totally butchered that. That's a reference I don't get. I'll be 100%.
You don't know Dikembe Mutombo?
He's a runner, right?
No, he's an NBA player who was the greatest shot blocker in NBA history, and he did this no, because he talks like Cookie Monster. He's he sounds like Cookie Monster.
Talks like Ghost Rider.
He talks like Ghost Rider.
But
I'm not a big NBA guy.
He was an African player, African-born player who came over, and he was a great shot blocker. And every time he would block a shot, he would pose for the cameras and do the finger wave. No.
You know what? We learned something today. I appreciate that. This is educational. I'm not a big. I'm not big into basketball. So
I'm sure some people are going to be. I feel like a lot of our references are probably 20 years dated.
Yeah,
they're going to be like, "This show sucks. I can't understand what they're talking about."
Over in a church, Lameheart hassles a priest for the contract of San Venagaza. Oh my god, I'm going to fuck this one up. San Venagaza. Vengaza? Man,
Yeah,
I fucking...
Ganza,
Mexican, I'm bad at
Venganza.
Spanish. Over in a church, Lameheart hassles a priest for the contract of San Vengaza. And I guess kills him having obtained no information whatsoever. And didn't we just also establish that hallowed grounds are off limits for these guys?
That's one of my questions.
He's in a church?
Are
2 minutes ago.
This church is are they implying this church is fake or something? It's not a real church or something? I don't know. I'm thinking too hard to. They just screwed up. Continuity.
Yeah. There's also a deleted scene where they show up at the actual church that Sam Elliott's been at the entire time and beat him up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did you even mention that it was hallowed ground? It's
because they had to explain why they hadn't shown up and beat up Sam Elliott yet. Because he was hiding out at a church for 150 years.
Until they do.
And it probably would have been cheaper just to have the priest walk out of the church going home or something, and then they accost him in the street instead of having to film it inside the church, which doesn't make sense for the plot.
They had to have that cool shot where the lights go dark behind Blackheart when he starts talking about evil stuff. Yeah. Right?
Sure. So let's have him meet his dad in a random parkway for no reason.
I wish I would have looked up the name of that park, because I'm like, if you have access to Aussie Kangaroo Park, then you're going to use Aussie Kangaroo Park.
Oh, yeah? Ghost Rider tears through the streets while the entire police force chases after him, confirming to the world that heaven and hell are real. Monsters exist, and supernatural beings could be hiding around every corner. He rides the hell cycle onto the top of a bridge, then rail rides it into the water, and it somehow rides across the waves like a jet ski. The remaining members of Breaking Benjamin attack Ghost Rider in the streets. So he rides his motorcycle straight up a skyscraper, and Roxy sees it from her apartment, which is conveniently located like 2 blocks away, which causes her to believe Johnny's story. So none of that other stuff, the mummified bodies, the destroyed streets, the scorched car, none of that. But she sees this dude riding up a building, and she's like, I guess he was telling me the truth.
That must be Johnny.
That's gotta be Johnny. That's gotta be Johnny.
Flaming skeleton man driving his motorcycle ridiculously straight up a building.
On top of the building, Johnny lassos a helicopter with a yeehaw and then throws it into the night, but it's somehow totally fine. Then the wind guy, it's like
spins sideways and does a complete like 180, and then it's okay.
And then fine. Because that's physics.
That's how helicopters work.
Then the wind guy giggles like a little girl as Ghost Rider tries to lasso him. But he makes quick work of the fart demon by heating up the air by spinning his chain around in circles. He then jumps off the roof on the hell cycle, landing right in front of the entire police force and half of the city. But instead of being taken aback by the fact that there's a flaming skeleton man standing right in front of them, they all shoot him, which again is a pretty accurate depiction of the police. I'm guessing they let him have a quick, intimate moment with Roxy first, though, because they were a little confused as to whether they should shoot him right away, since technically his skull is white. They blast the demon from hell 1,000 times with machine guns and such. So I'm guessing the caretaker is going to have a hell of a time sewing up all these bullet holes in this scene right after he reattaches his jaw. He hops onto the hell cycle and heads off into the night while Wallow and Floppy Nick Eyeliner Floppy Nick Eyeliner conspire to kidnap Roxy.
I still don't understand how he defeats Abagor by just twirling his flaming chain around him.
Dude, like
this demon from hell can't stand fire spinning around him.
So let's trace through the 3 fallen angels. He whips his chain around the guy's chest and just heats it up for a second, like it's a freaking stovetop or something, turns him into glass or whatever. Then he just whips his chain around in the air for a minute and burns the other angel. It's like, what if he flew through a hot day? Would he have died?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's from hell. Like, why are the fires of hell damaging to him?
Yeah, and then the last one is like, he didn't expect him to turn into Ghost Rider in the water. Yeah. And then he just boils to death. Like,
that's so stupid. No sense.
So I guess their weakness is heat for all 3 of them.
Apparently that. Yeah.
But it still makes no sense since they're all from hell.
It's sort of what happens to Blackheart too, because he heats him up from the inside with the penance stare, I guess.
I kind of question I don't know. I kind of assumed that Blackheart was the only one from hell, and the rest of the demons,
I guess you're right. They say that they were fallen angels that just hang out on Earth in elemental forms until the end of days.
Until the end of days. Because spoiler alert, because I can't remember if this has already come up, but we learned that Blackheart is the devil's son.
Mm-hmm. It's already come up, I think.
Yeah, it happened in the park.
When they.
Oh yeah, I couldn't remember.
How'd you forget the park scene?
I remember the park scene, but I couldn't remember if that's where they had exchanged or if they had let you know that he's his son.
It's got daddy issues.
They had access to the Aussie Kangaroo Park.
So they used it to the Aussie Kangaroo Park.
Act 3, The Resolution.
Morning comes and Johnny heads back to the cemetery where he finds himself not being followed by the hundreds of cops he just kind of drove by in the previous scene. He just kind of just scooted out. Oh, what do? We just shot at him. What are we going to do?
We tried everything. We're out of ideas.
We're not going to follow him or anything. I mean, I guess he rides off quickly.
He
but
lights
at the same
everything
time,
on fire when he's nearby, so if they follow him, maybe they'll burst into flames.
Johnny explains to the caretaker that everyone knows he's the Ghost Rider. And don't you watch TV? Everyone knows that the most famous motorcycle stuntman on Earth that every hillbilly in America recognizes is also a fiery skeleton man who can ride his motorcycle up tall buildings and can't be killed by mortal instruments. Just so we're clear. That seems to feel like it would have a lot of bearing in the sequel, you know, when he's just kind of a guy doing, you know, good deeds. Anyways. The caretaker shows Johnny the previous Ghost Rider, Carter Slade's grave, and explains that he was the one who kept the contract of San Venganza instead of giving it to the devil. He tells Johnny that he needs to stay away from friends and family that Blackheart can use against him, so he heads straight to the only friends and family he has. Glistening, beautiful breasts, Roxy, shows up at Johnny's place, which is somehow magically not crawling with cops trying to figure out where Johnny, who blinded the dozens of prisoners that were in the cell with him, caused untold damage to the city, and is an undead skeleton demon, might have gone. She finds the comic relief, Mac, at Johnny's place instead of at the police station, since he's one of Johnny's only friends and would definitely be brought in for questioning. Am I thinking too much about this whole... like they know it's him. They know that freaking demon from hell was him. But yet, not trying any of the tactics that normal police would do. He says Johnny's career will be over if the press finds out that he got arrested or is an unholy monster from hell, or whatever. That part he doesn't know about somehow. I guess he doesn't watch TV either. Mac blames Roxy for all the troubles they've been having, but she says she loves Johnny, so she's going to do whatever she can to help him. They look through the books Johnny's been reading about demons and stuff and stumble upon the exact page to foreshadow what's about to happen. I don't know if you noticed that, but it was literally like the Legion thing with all the souls flying into him. What a coincidence. He's got like 30 books sitting there, and they find that one page.
Yeah.
Blackheart shows up and turns Mac into a blue mummy, but hey, on the bright side, he did help him lose some weight. One of my favorite jokes throughout. Because it happens perfectly in each act.
It does. Every single
like
act.
One fat guy who gets turned into a mummy in each act. Johnny shows up and barely reacts to his dead friend on the ground. He just goes straight to Roxy. Mac. Roxy.
Mac was kind of an asshole to him.
Yeah, I guess.
So maybe he didn't like him that much.
He was
kept changing the fucking channel when I was trying to watch the Howler Monkeys.
Yeah.
Blackheart grabs him and Johnny changes into Ghost Rider. He tries to do the penance stare on him, but it doesn't work since he has no soul to burn. Another important detail here. Blackheart delivers some expertly crafted, campy as fuck lines.
Surprise! He sent you to bring me back. I'm not going back. I like it here.
Then tells Johnny to bring him the contract of San Venganza or he'll kill Roxy. Johnny heads to the caretaker who gives him the contract, which he's been hiding in his shovel for 150 years. He sure is crafty. He's outwitting the devil. He's got it in a shovel.
First he can outrun the devil who doesn't move and stands in one place, and now he can out with the devil by hiding his scroll in the one thing he's always carrying with him.
By the way, there's a deleted scene here where Foppy and Willow beat up the caretaker, even though he said that they can't come onto the land, which explains why he's just laying on the ground in the middle of the night in that scene for no fucking reason. Which is confusing if you don't see the other cut. Like, why is he just laying on the ground? He's just like, I'm just out here doing some yoga on the ground. Sitting Indian style.
I wonder if they filmed that and then they were like, shit. We can't have him be on hollow ground. But we filmed the other scene with the priest.
But that one looked cool.
Because that actually also drives the plot forward, so we can't cut that one out, but we can get rid of this one.
So we're clear. If we go by the deleted scenes here, demons could come on that ground at any point, and could have for the last 150 years. And he's just been hiding out there for absolutely no reason. And they could have just stole his shovel at any point and found the freaking thing. Or gone into his grave. That was what he was like. Legend has it that it's in the grave, buried with him. Like, well, wouldn't the devil have known the legend at that point?
Right. He's not a very smart devil.
Yeah, I'm going to hire someone to exhume the body. That could have been Peter Fonda's next.
You don't even need to hire someone. Just get a Ghost Rider to do it. You just force Johnny Cage to go do it.
Also, like, how is it possible that there are two Ghost Riders existing at the same time if he can only give the power to one Ghost Rider? Then he can't take the power back.
Right.
When Johnny rejects him at the end.
But it has an expiration date.
It does when he dies?
No. Well, we'll get to it. But
It's like energy based, isn't it?
But I don't know. But that's one of my Coppola questions. Because Sam Elliott rides with him out to the San Venganza, and then he's like, I only had one last change in me, and I was saving it for a moment like this. So there's like a punch card that he's got a certain amount of times he can turn into the Ghost Rider once the devil takes the power away or something.
It's like Samus Aran in Metroid, got to get those power ups.
And then he rides off and then disintegrates, right?
Yeah. The caretaker trusts Johnny with the contract that will cause literal hell on Earth if Blackheart gets a hold of it. After he says, the devil may have my soul, but he doesn't have my spirit. Then Sam Elliott overacts for a bit.
Arguing semantics.
You did it for love. That scene was like, okay, we're at like an 11. You should like bring it down to like a 7 or so.
You didn't do it for greed. You did it for the right reason. Maybe that puts God on your side.
Sam Elliott just goes a little too hard on that.
Yeah.
Go a little in between beef, it's what's for dinner, and what you're doing right now.
I need you to bring the same energy you bring to the beef commercials.
Then he reveals that he's actually Carter Slade, the Ghost Rider who stole the contract. Who the hell saw that twist coming? I mean,
oh my God.
Oh man. The two of them flame on and cause more brush fires in the desert to the sounds of Ghost Riders in the sky, which is actually pretty dope. And for some reason, they kill an innocent poor lizard that's just along the trail. Just burn a lizard to death.
I wonder how many wildfires they set too on the way.
Oh my gosh.
Burn down half of unnamed Texas town.
Maybe that's what's going on, man. Ghost Rider moved to California a few years ago, but now he's in Turkey and Greece. He's just riding around international, doing some international touring.
Doesn't he disappear to Europe in the sequel?
I think so,
or
yeah.
Something goes like Eastern Europe or something.
Something like that, yeah. It's cheaper to film over
That
there.
was the only thing I wanted out of this movie was a cool version of Ghost Riders in the Sky, which was like a deal with the devil because we got it and then we got a shitty version in the credits.
We got kind of a weird emo-y version of it, but still slaps a little bit. The caretaker tosses Johnny his gun and then just kind of fucks off into the spirit world. Yeah. So his last ride was just to show him where San Venganza was and not to help him?
Right. I was super
Johnny
excited for like
probably
Sam
could have
Ghost
found
Rider
a map or something and like
he could have just pointed it to him and it's out here. You just go in a straight line.
Do you know what MapQuest is, Johnny? You can find it on the AOL. We got dial up. Got dial up in the church.
Use some MapQuest.
It's right here. I will wait to flame on until I get right next to the place where we can actually fight the demons together.
Yeah, he says something like, I used it for this one last ride, and now we'll see if... What does he say? Something? We'll see if God will forgive him or something around.
Yeah,
or other.
along those lines.
And then he disappears.
I showed the new Ghost Rider where San Venganza is. Isn't that good enough?
Right.
Yeah, like I redeemed myself.
I redeemed myself. It's over there. I'm not going there, though.
I'm not going to help you.
Fuck that. I'm better at hiding and shit. You see where I put that fucking scroll all those years? Also, it's interesting how, I talked about this at the beginning, but it's interesting how Carter talks and he sounds like Sam Elliott when he's the Ghost Rider, but when Johnny talks, he sounds like a demon from hell. Mm-hmm. So is that something that develops over time? Like as you harness the Ghost Rider power, you can start talking normal? I don't remember if he talks normal in the second one or if he has the same crazy Ghost Rider voice that he has in this one.
Maybe they can talk however they want to talk, and Johnny Blaze just wants to sound like a demon.
I mean, He is a
Sam Elliott likes his own voice,
performer,
so.
you know, likes to perform in front of big crowds of people. Maybe this is him putting on a show. Again, more thought put into it than they ever did. Johnny
There's an important point, though. He tells him to stick to the shadows.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Before he disappears.
Johnny rides through Dagobah, which I guess is the only way to San Venganza. They showed it from a distance, and there was dirt all around it, except for this one little patch.
And all of a sudden, he's in Dagobah / the swamp from Neverending Story, where the horse gets trapped. I kept expecting to see R2's little thing pop up out of the water, then get eaten by a...
Or those the big rats from Princess Bride.
Rats of unusual size, RUSs or whatever.
Anyways, he rides through the water.
I just imagine they built that set for something because they're like, well, we got a water demon guy. We just need a set of swamp. We'll just throw it in the middle of the desert.
I think they wanted to tie back to the opening when you see the horse go through that same water, and they're like, well, let's just reuse it so we know that he's going to San Venganza, so it ties into the other Ghost Rider.
Forgot about that.
So he goes through the water, and of course is attacked immediately by the stupid water guy. He, I guess, unexpectedly turns into Ghost Rider and then boils him to death. Like in seconds. Really? I guess he thought pulling him underwater would keep him from turning into Ghost Rider.
Right.
I guess.
But he's an unnatural, supernatural demon. Like, your description of that scene is exactly how long it took on screen to play. Done. All right, well, let's move on to the final villain.
The guy's a water demon, and you can kill him the same way you would kill Jardia. You just boil him a little bit, and he'll be... But at least we have one stupid as hell villain to go. We're down to just one left.
Travis County is being advised to boil their water before drinking it.
So you don't drink a demon.
Might be a fallen angel in the water.
It's almost like they just wanted to get that guy out of the way too. They just wanted to get him out of the way so he could go fight. So he can go fight.
They ran out of time and money.
I feel like they just put those guys in there to show cool things that Ghost Rider can do, and they kill them in seconds. Like if you see the park scene where the fallen angels are standing behind Blackheart, they're all like scared to death of Mephistopheles the whole time. So they're kind of just pussies from the jump and just stay pussies to their deaths. So maybe they shouldn't have joined with Blackheart in the first place.
But that one is like the worst Ghost Rider kill because like he doesn't even do anything cool. He just turns into Ghost Rider and then and it boils the water.
Oh god!
How did he kill you? He got me hot.
It'd be like Superman defeating a villain just by opening his shirt up with the S on it, and then the guy just dies.
Wait, doesn't he do that?
he boiled the beaver fever out of me, and now I'm dead. He rolls into San Venganza on a Harley, which is like the loudest machine ever invented by man, but can hear the whispers of the poor souls who still reside there in the wind. Blackheart and Johnny share a super campy whip zoom into each other's eyes, and then Johnny produces the contract in exchange for Blackheart letting Roxy go. That freaking like zoom into the eyes was so stupid. So stupid.
Westerns used to do it, right? When they do
like that. Do it good, the bad, and the ugly style, where it's like you just kind of like go close on the eyes and then go to the other one. Like that would have been so much better than this zoom into the eyes. That was storyboarded. Somebody storyboarded out. Like then we zoom into the eyes real fast, and it's like real cool, and you see their eyes, and you can see his eyeliner really good.
Think the Oscar-winning cinematographer had to weep when he did that shot?
Yeah. Yes. You want me to do what?
Fucking light.
I shot Gallipoli. Johnny turns into Ghost Rider and gives Lameheart a few punches to the face before throwing a couple of fireballs at him Mario Brothers style. Unfortunately, the sun comes up, which causes him to turn back into Johnny. Blackheart reads the scroll, and all the souls fly into him, and somehow they even manage to make the reading of the contract and the souls flying into Blackheart stupid and campy.
All of you
I know. I don't know if it was Wes Bentley's choice to make the villain so laughably wimpy and over the top, or if it was just the heroin. But even when he's supposed to be transforming into Legion, the ultimate badass, he's still just super lame and wimpy and dumb.
Yeah.
Like, so he says, "My name is Legion and we are many," which could have been a badass line if it didn't sound like it was coming from a 9-year-old girl playing in the back yard with some dolls.
My name is Legion, for we are many.
You couldn't have like used the Ghost Rider voice for that?
No kidding.
Right.
No kidding.
He's a demon from hell, and he sounds like...
He's the son of the devil.
Yeah. Why did they make him so lame? And like
And
now...
comic Blackheart like is born from all of the suffering that mankind has endured.
Yeah,
you know,
he's this
at one
big,
specific
like,
spot. He's
beastly creature. And
he's the embodiment of human suffering.
the closest they get to
make him this guy.
him in the comics is what Legion looks like, you know, when he's got the spikes coming out of his face and the red eyes. But that's not even close to what Blackheart looked like in the comics. And if you Google Blackheart, this idiot comes up everywhere. So from now on, it's like Stained. Like you can't get...
No. Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Breaking Benjamin. Earth, Wind, and Failure, Breaking Benjamin. Yeah.
Stained is a different band.
But yeah, so now people associate Blackheart with fucking bag boy Ricky Fitz.
Doing a Matrix cosplay.
Yeah. Just like a Blade character for some reason. Which is actually a Marvel property, so I guess maybe that one
And Blade
makes
came
sense.
out before this, so
Yeah, that's true. They're making the Blade movie. They should, like, that would be awesome if they do a Blade Ghost Rider thing.
yeah, I think they
that
are.
would be dope.
There's a lot of rumors that
bring
there's going
Ricky
to be a
Fitz
Ghost
back.
Rider. There's a Ghost Rider TV show. They're doing Moon Knight. They're going to have Blade. Apparently, Werewolf by Night is going to be a spin-off character, which is a werewolf that was where Moon Knight actually debuted as a villain for Werewolf by Night.
I feel like they're opening up a Pandora's box here.
They're going to do a Midnight Suns type of supernatural evil side of the MCU that all these characters can interact on. Would be really sweet.
I feel like they're opening a big Pandora's box with the supernatural stuff, because then that's, it's going to have to tie into the movies somehow at some point.
Right. Even if it doesn't, you can have them all there's this supernatural shit that happens in the MCU that most of the other characters aren't aware of and doesn't, aside from somebody like Doctor Strange wouldn't really know that it happens. And you can have Doctor Strange interact with them for it too and just keep this little supernatural universe thing going would be cool.
Yeah. Anyways, Johnny blasts Legion with the shotgun Carter Slade gave him and tries his best to lead him into the shadows so he can transform again. Legion grabs Johnny, but Roxy blasts him a few times, Sarah Connor style, before the gun runs out of bullets. She throws Johnny the gun, which turns into a magic Ghost Rider gun in the shadows, and he blows Legion into pieces. Yeah. He and the Lost Souls reform like the T-1000. I get the feeling that Mark Steven Johnson watched a lot of Terminator 2 while he was making this thing, because there are a lot of little,
Even all the cops shooting him outside the building was like when they assault the Cyberdyne or whatever.
Yeah.
And all the cops show up and are firing into the building.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he was like, what's a movie with a motorcycle in it? Terminator 2. There's a lot of motorcycle stuff in that. I'm going to go watch that.
He even has a shotgun like he has at the end of this
happens
movie
in Terminator 2. I'm putting it in Ghost Rider. This happens in Terminator 2. I'm putting it in Ghost Rider. Same shotgun? Same style of shotgun?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. That he doesn't have anywhere else in the movie. He just has it for this finale.
Yeah.
Because fighting a demon from hell, you bring a shotgun.
Yeah. I seem to remember that being one of Ghost Rider's weapons, though. He always had a shotgun on his back.
Yeah. And I did like how he turned it into like a demon shotgun, because he can, part of his powers is he can enchant things and turn them into, like, that's what he does with a motorcycle. He turns it into a Ghost Rider version of whatever.
It looks like the motorcycle. The gun looks like the motorcycle. I bet you there's some dude somewhere who has made a Ghost Rider shotgun, has it in his man cave. Yeah. Johnny transforms back into Ghost Rider and grabs the reformed Legion and hits him with the trusty old penance stare, which works this time since Legion is filled with 1,000 souls to burn. But makes no sense because Blackheart sees his own sins rather than the sins of the 1,000 souls trapped inside of him, even though he has no soul of his own to burn. I mean, I guess it would have been confusing. We kind of talked about this offline, but like, it would have been confusing if it would have been other people's sins that he was seeing. But at the same time, you could have, I think you could have worked that in there pretty easily.
Well, even when they show the mugger's sins, like you're seeing things that happen that we didn't actually see happen. You just know that it's the mugger committed them. So,
but with Blackheart, we see the stuff that he's done in the last 3 days or whatever.
Instead of like some old timey Western, some guy robbing a bank and shooting some people, or some guy stabbing.
I think it would have been clear
or something.
Maybe it would have been too expensive to shoot all of those scenes. I don't know. I'm sure there was a reason for it, but it just doesn't make sense that Blackheart sees his own sins when he doesn't actually have a soul still.
It's the transitive property of soul gathering. Once you gather a bunch of souls, now you have a soul, and now you can you can suffer the same fate as the penance stare.
His eyes burn out like the mugger from earlier, and Ghost Rider tosses his effeminate ass to the ground. Roxy heads to him and tries to touch his face, to which Ghost Rider says, "Monster." Because why say lot words when few do trick? She touches his face and he turns back into Johnny Blaze. And then they kiss for a second, and then Mephistopheles cock blocks him and shows up. Mephistopheles shows up and congratulates Johnny for upholding his end of the deal and decides to give him his soul back. But Johnny decides rather than take the deal and start the life he's been trying to get back this entire movie, he's going to just stay the Ghost Rider and be the spirit of vengeance who protects the innocent from evil. The devil gets pissed off and just kind of leaves. That's it. He takes Blackheart with him. That's an important detail. So Blackheart is not dead. Which I thought he was dead, but if you look at the mugger's still blinking afterwards, and you kind of get the sense that Blackheart is still alive. He's just experiencing all of that stuff. And why would he take Blackheart's body with him if Blackheart was dead? So I get the sense that maybe they were setting up that Blackheart could come back, which, oh God, I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, so I guess him having complete control over him and his bike and all that stuff was just like a one-time deal, and that's over, because he can't force Johnny to go back, and he can't just give him his soul back. Couldn't he just be like, well, fuck you, here's your soul anyway?
Right. Like, I'm taking that back so you don't come after me with it like you just threatened to do.
I'm keeping these powers that you gave me, but you can't take back.
Right. No taxis. It's the no takesies backsies rule that all devils and demons have to follow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's somewhere in that contract that he signed with his blood.
Johnny and Roxy head to the tree Johnny killed 20 years ago. Which, by the way, that's a fake tree. So this is all shot in Australia. They had to make a fake tree and put it there. And then all of those flowers are all fake, because they couldn't have them grow over time. They just had to put them in. So that entire shot, just to put that stupid tree there, it cost $150,000.
Wow.
God.
Anyways, they head to the tree that Johnny killed 20 years ago by carving jizz plus racism forever. God knows why. He and Roxy share a moment while Nic Cage's eyes glow for some reason through the whole scene. I think they wanted him to oh look, he's full of life again and he's so happy, but he's abandoning Roxy and going off to fight evil. So his entire life is over. Everything that he had is over now.
And the whole point of him was trying to get his own life. That was what he wanted, for this movie. No. And then he pulls a 180 for no reason.
At the very last second, he's just like, nope, I'm not giving this power back. I like it. She tells him to go make the most of his second chance by being a spirit of vengeance, even though he's a world-famous motorcycle stuntman that will most certainly be recognized not just from that, but also the fact that thousands of people saw him become a flaming skull demon.
I'm just gonna disappear into the ether.
But, you know, if he goes over like a few towns or something, he'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody talks about,
nobody outside of Texas is gonna care about some
We're probably broadcast on the news. Don't you watch the TV?
They got monkeys on there.
Johnny rides off into the sunset before one last transformation into Ghost Rider in a really strangely shot scene where like he's zooming down the desert and like everything's blurry around him except for his face. And then he does an eyebrow raise and then turns into Ghost Rider.
Probably
The end. Yeah, just a shot for the trailer. Wow.
That was a mission. That was a marathon.
Wow, I can't believe we spent 3 hours on Ghost Rider, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ghost Rider really wasn't that bad a movie. I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing the second one. And I made sure to check on Loved Again Media, and they do have it.
Ooh, I hope it's cheap.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm actually going to order it right now. I'm kind of excited to watch this one.
Make sure you use our promo code for 15% off because... Well, just because. I mean, it's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But make sure you get that extra 15% off, okay?
Yeah. Make sure you get the best deal you can.
What's the promo code again?
It's 1Cage at checkout and a little coupon code thing. So you get 15% off on any order. And you can combine those with other coupon codes, like the 20% off over $100.
All right, well, I just ordered it. I'm really excited. I hear Kieran Hines is in this one. He's way better than Peter Fonda. I can't wait to see him as Mephisto.
Ooh, yeah.
Also, I heard there's a great scene where Ghost Rider pisses fire. It's going to be hilarious. I can't wait.
That happens, yeah. That happens, yeah.
It does happen in the movie.
All right, well, that's awesome. I'm really stoked to see where the Ghost Rider saga goes from here.
You made sure to use that promo code, right?
Head over to lovedagainmedia.com now and get an extra 15% off by entering the coupon code 1Cage at checkout to start building your Nicolas Cage collection today.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
What would have happened if Johnny would have died in one of those accidents? Like, would the devil have reset
that's
things?
why I think the devil was just keeping him from dying. Mm-hmm. Or he'd just go get a new Ghost Rider, I guess.
Why did he spend 20 years cultivating this Ghost Rider?
That's my question. That's my main one. Why did he... why did he give him the power when he was a teenager and then do nothing with it until... And also, I guess I'm stealing your Coppola questions.
No, go ahead.
But also, like, that ties into my other one, which is why did Blackheart show up now to do all this? And, like, why does the devil suddenly not care about the souls and he cares about stopping Blackheart and then...
From getting the souls that were
instead
taken
of
from
taking
him.
them for himself. Right. Like, shouldn't he still want them? Like, shouldn't he want the souls rather than trying to stop Blackheart from getting the souls and then having them be gone forever?
The devil's actually a pretty good guy, you know? He's stopping evil from happening.
Stopping hell on earth, even though that's what he wanted.
Yeah, it kind of seems like he's trying to find a balance. Like,
well, you know, people
maybe
mellow.
He says he wants that.
And why does he wait 150 years from when Carter Slade runs off to choose a new Ghost Rider to try and finally track down the 1,000 souls?
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he could see into the future and he could see what Johnny was going to become. But it's all pretty vague. Why does some things hurt him after going back to normal, but other things don't? I mean, I think they just needed that one scene with Carter Slade patching him up so that they could have an exposition scene.
Tending to the wounded superhero or whatever. It's a staple.
Yeah,
it really is.
Usually it's, like it should be Roxanne or something.
Right. Like maybe they had to show some kind of vulnerability to him because otherwise he's completely invincible throughout the rest of the movie.
But I kind of
both when he is Ghost Rider and not, like he just can't seem to die.
I kind of appreciate that sometimes. Like, I think I've mentioned it before, but like one of my favorite things about Bruce Lee is that like there was never a moment where you thought Bruce Lee was going to lose in a fight. And like every freaking story ever now, it's like, oh, we got to show Superman being vulnerable. And it's like, no, you don't. He's Superman.
Yeah.
But, you know, there have to be some stakes.
Yeah, you can do clever
at some
things.
point. Yeah. But like, I always love that, like, even when he gets like a little bit of a cut, he just kind of wipes it off and then just goes back to beating everybody's ass. I love that about Bruce Lee. The caretaker says the last Ghost Rider was 150 years ago, which means that Carter Slade is at least like 170 years old. So does that mean that he gets supernatural power, like to live a super long time? Does that mean that Johnny Blaze is going to be able to live for 200 years or whatever, till he just decides, oh, that was my last ride, and then he just doesn't help the next Ghost Rider, and
and then just
the year 2022 or 2200 or whatever.
Yeah,
when he's fighting space demons.
That would be cool.
This is my last ride.
This is my last ride. God, that'd be awesome if Nic Cage comes back for like a sequel that happens in 2040 or something, and he could have the same Sam Elliott hair going back.
Right. Yeah.
Legend has it there was a Ghost Rider who became the spirit of vengeance. Nic Cage's Texas accent really just like comes and goes throughout this whole thing. I don't really have a question about it. It's just an observation. It's like, like he's just
what happened
like
to his accent?
He's just full on Texan for a second, and then he's not Texan, and then he's just Nic Cage, and I don't know.
Yeah. Like, was he supposed to be living from Texas? Because I think so. Got the impression they were traveling, stuntmen, when so maybe he could be from anywhere that had a southern accent.
I guess.
I know he lived in it because his loft was in Texas now as an adult, but
like he has like that scene when he's talking to the cops and he's like, I wanted to become a motorcycle cop at some point, and like he has like a full on accent. Yeah, he did.
That's the alternate universe.
Wicker Man is a sequel to this movie.
Once again, he catches fire in that one too. So.
He does. Wow. They tie together.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that maybe all of the Nic Cage characters all share the same world, same universe. They're all related somehow.
They're all different timeline variants of Nic Cage doing things.
Why isn't his body a skeleton too?
It is in the comics.
Yeah, it's supposed
but for some reason his clothes don't burn because he can control what burns and stuff. So that's why he wears a full-on jacket and pants.
His clothes are floating the whole time.
Yeah, supposedly. Like his whole body is a burning skeleton. You just don't see it.
He's got like a real Skeletor thing, where like Skeletor is like a skeleton up top, but then he's like a muscled out, jacked up dude.
I noticed for the first scene his hands are burning. You can see the skeletal hands, but then the next one he's got gloves on, so they don't have to animate that part of it. But it's also comic accurate because they don't have to draw the flames all over his hands every time. He just do it around his skull.
Yeah.
But
well, then why did his boots catch on fire when he was first transforming? Wouldn't that have destroyed all of his clothes? Yeah, his boots catch fire in the first shot, which they actually did, by the way. That was actually Nic Cage. His feet were on fire in that shot, and they had to like cut right after that and extinguish it. But
douse him.
But he said that was one of the most nerve-wracking things in the whole shoot, was like we had to set Nic Cage on fire. Like I felt so scared about lighting our principal star on fire, one of the biggest Hollywood movie stars. So the Hell Cycle is completely unaffected by gravity or any natural elements whatsoever. It just can just do whatever. Just jet ski,
take him wherever
ride up a
wants,
building. Can he
Except
fly?
He can't fly.
It can cover jet and drive up buildings.
Ski jet. I mean, could he just? Does he ever transform it into a little plane or something like in the comics?
Yeah, he'd probably have to enchant a plane into the hell plane.
No, there was a short story where he takes it into space and He's helping the crew from the Fast and Furious series.
I knew it was going to be a Fast and Furious reference of some sort.
Every show moving forward.
There's an alternate one where he turns Eleanor into a flaming Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Awesome. Oh, and hey, that's perfect because what's her face, greasy haired chick is she looks like a skeleton.
Not a single cop followed the Ghost Rider from the skyscraper back to the cemetery. We kind of talked about it and thing, but nobody followed him at all. Not
he
one.
outran him. He can outrun the devil. He can outrun the cops.
He threw the helicopter away, but like the helicopter didn't keep its distance and just keep an eye on the scene and then maybe follow the Ghost Rider away. Yeah. The guy was just so petrified by telling him that, or Ghost Rider telling him that he's pissing him off, that he's just like, well, fuck this. I'm gonna go land.
Okay. I'm gonna leave.
And then, like, from their perspective, they didn't even really see Ghost Rider do anything heroic, right? Because, like, he dispatches the fart wind guy, but like from the ground, that would have just looked like him twirling his chain around menacingly during a dirt devil, and then he falls back to come down to the ground, and they shoot at him. So it's like he just menaces this Texas town,
he was
destroys
fighting
the side of a skyscraper building, and then runs off.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, he's still mummifying people and burning stuff up as he tears around the city, right? They didn't really absolve him, did they?
No. He's still a wanted criminal.
He's a wanted man.
Also, I know Roxy was there, but that's just because her apartment was just conveniently located nearby. But wouldn't the news crews be on the scene of this crazy event that's happening in downtown?
Yeah.
Texas town.
Texas town.
Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. One of those.
All the major areas.
El Paso, maybe. El Paso's not big enough, but yeah. So he would have been all over the news. I mean, he says that like everybody knows I'm Ghost Rider to Carter Slade, which means it was on the news. And he said like, "Don't you have a TV? Everybody knows who I am." So everybody knows that hell and heaven exist now, and that there are creepy creature monster things roaming around. But okay,
yeah,
the implications of this are huge.
Right,
Like,
doesn't really carry over.
Supernatural beings exist. Heaven and hell is real.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
This is my last one. Mark Steven Johnson is a big fan of the comics. Like he said that he's a really big fan of Ghost Rider in general. So is Nic Cage, who actually, I don't know how I missed it in the quick facts. Maybe I skipped over it, but Nic Cage has a Ghost Rider tattoo on his arm that he had to have covered up in order to play Ghost Rider.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had the somewhere on like his arm, but he has a big flaming skull, Ghost Rider, on his arm. And he's, this was like his dream from when he was a kid. Like he always wanted to be able to play Ghost Rider. But anyway, so he was a big fan of the comics. So was Nic Cage. But he saw American Beauty and thought that the kid who sells weed to Kevin Spacey was a good choice for Blackheart. I mean, that's the ultimate question of this whole movie is why did you cast Wes Bentley for this role? We know he's a good actor when he wants to be and isn't on cocaine and heroin, and not just doing it so that he can get his next fix. But like, he's a great actor in other things. I guess it was a good choice of like casting a good actor to be in this role, but like, why would you choose him to be the son of the devil? Right. And did you look at what he looks like in the comics?
Yeah. Like he had to have been able to tell during dailies that he was doing a laughable performance. Like you didn't do anything to curb what was going on screen as you were filming it.
It's the same guy who did Daredevil, so.
That's very telling then his like, yeah, it's a comic book movie. Why are you thinking too much about it? Like,
yeah, that's exactly what he said in the thing.
Doesn't mind that it's cheesy, over the top cheese.
Well, he actually said that was like, okay, so I made Daredevil and everybody said that it was soulless and that it was depressing and that it was too dark and there wasn't any joy in this movie. And then I made this movie and it was fun and goofy and lighthearted and everybody made fun of me for that. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The thing he didn't seem to realize is that you got to strike a balance between those two things. That's what made the Iron Man. But Iron Man.
The comics that he says he loves so much do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I don't know. They're pretty campy in the comics a lot of times, but
the old ones, but I'm sure even in the mid 2000s, the comics were taking things a little more seriously, and we're still skirting that line between serious subject matter and goofy fun.
I would love to see like a Frank Miller style take on Ghost Rider. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. Why did the devil find it pertinent to take a teenage Johnny Blaze and give him the Ghost Rider power potentially in the future, but then not call him that, until 20 years down the road? I guess because he was watching his investment grow so that he could get to the point where he has the skills to be the Ghost Rider, but
maybe he does this all over the world. He has tons of potential Ghost Riders.
Right.
And then Blackheart just happened to show up right where Johnny Blaze happened to be. So he's like, okay, well, that's going to be my Ghost Rider now.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
There's tons of spirits of vengeance or whatever around. But then it's like, so is the devil forbidden to interfere with stuff that happens on Earth? Is that why he makes all these deals with people? Because it seems like he could just handle things himself if he's as powerful as he says he is.
Well, Blackheart says at one point, like, you don't have power over me here when he's on Earth. So maybe that's true.
So he only has power in hell, and when he's on Earth, he has to find mortals to act as his agents.
That makes sense, because they do reference the Ghost Hunters being bounty hunters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
the Ghost Hunters or the Ghost Riders?
Ghost Hunters.
The Ghost Riders are his bounty hunters.
They also work at Roto-Rooter.
So that was one. My other one was it was just the overall confusion of the enemies, like the bad guys' plans. Like, why do they want the souls? How is that going to allow them to be hell on Earth?
I don't get that at all. Like, so would the devil have created hell on Earth if he would have taken the contract? Because Carter Slade said it was too
150 years in the past. He wanted it for some reason.
But then
maybe give him.
Maybe it's like, well, I wouldn't have gone over the top, but Blackheart, he's crazy, so.
Or it could just be he doesn't want Blackheart to do it because he wants to do it. And Blackheart's his idiot son that he hates. So he doesn't want to see him get this power and whatever.
So that means that the souls are gone now, right? Because he burned the souls through the penance there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or he took them all into himself. So maybe they're still trapped in Blackheart now.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he took them all into himself, but then Ghost Rider ruined all of them. And I don't know, turned him into a basket case by giving him the penance there.
Like some sort of arms race, like, if I get 1,000 souls, then suddenly I'm super powerful. I don't know.
Yeah, so why doesn't the devil just do what he did 150 years ago, where he tempts 1,000 people or 2,000 people or an entire town of Texasville to turn into sin, you guys, and then get a new Ghost Rider to round all those souls up and then start the whole plan over again?
Did you guys see Needful Things? That's kind of the point of, or the story in that is he, like, the devil shows up in this town and just starts, like, making everybody little deals, and they start doing bad things to each other, and then it turns everybody against each other in the whole town, and it's just chaos and bedlam in this little town, and that's kind of what I picture happening in San Venganza.
Yeah.
That's the same sort of thing.
But then it's like, when that failed, why didn't he just try it again with somebody else in some other town? Like,
just do it once. I failed.
Just do it once and
obviously
then
I've
for
seen
150 years.
I've seen the error of my ways. All right.
What's the final tally?
This movie is a little tame because it is a PG-13 movie going for that mass market comic book audience. So there were a couple uses of hell, but I didn't count them because it was the literal, I'm going to send you to hell, or you're from hell, or whatever. It wasn't like, what the hell? So it wasn't really a curse. It was just using the proper noun. He did say damn once, not in the sense of somebody being damned, but in like saying like, damn those kids or whatever. I don't exactly remember what the context was, but one use of damn, one use of son of a bitch. So, bitch, but I count. And 5 uses of God in a cursing way, like God, oh my God. Whatever.
In a I'm kicking a barmaid into the wall type of way.
Yeah, God. Yeah. One of them is when he's transforming and he's burning for the first time. He goes, God, which I didn't even catch until I put subtitles on and watched it a second time. But yeah, so a total of 7 curses, which is the second lowest. Or no, I guess it would be. Now, the third lowest of movies that actually have any cursing in it. The lowest is Bringing Out the Dead with 2 swears. Gone in 60 Seconds has 4 curses. Ghost Rider has 7. However, Willy's Wonderland and Mandy still had 0.
0, right?
So, now, grand total is 235 curses total across all
through 12 movies. On the nudity side of things, there's none. Obviously, PG-13. So no nudity whatsoever. Though, I mean, those abs. I mean, I paused it. I don't know about you guys.
Paused it and had to get your 500 steps in.
Bravo. Amazing. On the state/country tracker, we still have not left the United States. This is the first time we've been to Texas so far. So that brings us up to 9 total states. Over on the budget versus gross side of things, so this was a $110 million budget, $228.7 million at the box office. So that means so far he has budgeted $330 million across the 12 movies and made the studios $544.8 million, which most of that is Gone in 60 Seconds and Ghost Rider. So big summer blockbusters. I think we're gonna end up really balancing things in the positive because of movies like Gone in 60 Seconds, 8mm. All those like big summer blockbusters made a lot of money, especially at the height of like his 90, Con Air and Face Off. Yeah. Those movies when he was kind of the action star for a while there, made a lot of money. But there are the movies like what we're going to do next week with Pig, or next episode with Pig, which I don't even know. I couldn't even find a number for the budget, but it's only made 2.6, and I'm guessing that's more money than they expected to make off of it. On the rating tracker, there's another PG-13, so now that brings us up to 4 R-rateds, 3 PG-13s, and 5 unrated movies. So I think it's funny that almost half of the movies have been unrated so far.
Yeah.
Over to you, Vince, for the kill tracker.
All right, so we all agreed that the deaths of the members of Earth, Wind, and Failure would count. I originally had counted Pinkheart, but you brought up a good point. He doesn't actually die. He does get summoned back down to hell.
Yeah.
His dad. So that would mean that we're looking at 3 deaths, bringing us to a total of 29 over the 12 films. He never died in this movie. I mean, he never died, and you could argue that he did, but was brought back when he should have broke his neck in that one scene. But that's like really getting into the weeds. So I'll say 0 deaths for the movie, right? Which brings us to that leaves our total at 6, and then Resurrection. This is the one where I know we kind of talked a little bit about. Is he resurrected in this film? Because technically, like I said, he never dies. But he
I don't think
immortal.
So I would say no.
Down it.
I think he can still die technically, because I don't think the devil actually is keeping him alive when he's Johnny Blaze. I think he's just he has supernatural powers when he is Ghost Rider. But
where does this mound of mediocrity land? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
Vince, we'll start with you. What is your rating of Ghost Rider on the trusty old Cageometer? Starting with the movie.
So, God, I had seen this movie a good amount of times before, because I had an ex that was really obsessed with Nicolas Cage, funny enough. And it was one of the movies that she liked to watch.
I can't imagine why.
I couldn't.
I honestly couldn't.
It's those ads. But I honestly couldn't tell you
a single scene from the film, having seen it probably at least 5 times. I mean, that's like a minimum prior to rewatching it. And I just like have this vague memory of not really liking it, but rewatching it, it's not as bad as it was in my head. So I got to give it a 5 out of 10. I say it's kind of middle of the road. It has some fun moments. The plot was a mess. I mean, we don't got to drag into that anymore that we already did, breaking this down. But like it was fun at points. You know, Sam Elliott and Nic Cage interacting together is always fun to watch. I thought that brought some levity to it. Like we talked about, you know, this at the time the CGI was groundbreaking. Although it doesn't hold up entirely, I have a huge appreciation for how much work they put into it, knowing a little more behind the scenes stuff. So, you know, putting all that together and give it a 5, you know, it's kind of middle of the road. Not great, not awful, because, God, we've seen some awful films, Dog Eat Dog. Even though I still love that movie, I think it's just a fun, dumb movie. It's not a good movie.
I feel like that's a theme throughout the entire show so far, is like, we've enjoyed every single one of these movies in their own way. They're all great.
Right.
But you have to rate it honestly of like, okay, is this an amazing movie or is this a terrible movie?
Because like, you know, having watched films like Manatee and Color Out of Space and some of the and Vampire's Kiss, like we've watched some really good movies, right? So I give it a 5, middle of the road. As far as Nick, same. I give him a 5. I felt like he just kind of, it was weird because I thought he'd be more invested in this given the situation. You know, he's always wanted to do a big budget comic book movie, and he finally gets one, and I just kind of felt like he didn't really know how to play the character, and it was, like you said, his accent's in and out, and he just didn't really add a lot of depth to the character, I felt. So I gotta give him a 5 on that one. I feel like I was expecting more from him, having rewatched this film, knowing his love for comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've definitely talked about it a lot so far on this show. I mean, he literally took his stage name from Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, you would think he would have had a lot more.
Especially because he's got the tattoo. Like,
yeah,
I didn't even
he's
know
got
that.
a Ghost Rider
tattoo. He liked
tattoo.
Ghost Rider enough to have a tattoo prior to doing this movie.
Years prior to doing this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nigel, where do you rate Ghost Rider on your Cageometer?
I had never seen this before. I was expecting it to be god-awful based on my own impressions of it. When it first came out, I had no desire to see it because I didn't like Nicolas Cage at the time, and also like it was just a third-tier comic character that I didn't know anything about, didn't care to see it. So I was pleasantly surprised that there were parts of it that I enjoyed a lot more than I expected to do. I really liked the action with Ghost Rider. I thought it was a faithful recreation of his power set and how he looks and acts in the movies, or comics, I'm sorry. And how he just, the way the visuals looked pretty good. We talked about it. They were surprisingly competent for a movie, although the budget was fairly high, and we have Nic Cage to thank for that, increasing the budget to make it look good.
Still was 14 years ago. You know, it was a long time ago. In terms of CGI, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so I think they used it pretty well. They showcased his skills against Earth, Wind, and Failure, but it was kind of a letdown because, like, he didn't really, didn't have to do a whole lot of cool action with him. He just sort of did stuff, and then they died. So I wish that we'd been able to see more of that, more Ghost Rider action. Story's horrible. Like, it's just all over the place. If it wasn't for Sam Elliott and Nic Cage's performance and Peter Fonda, even, who was also underutilized, I think it would have been completely unwatchable because Eva Mendes' acting is god-awful. Her character's one-dimensional. Their love story is really stupid. The comic relief Mac character is just annoying and doesn't really add anything to it. So that part was really bad. The villains are terrible, like we've said. Blackheart is probably the worst comic villain I've seen in any of these movies, hands down. And then his 3 henchmen were just nothing. They were nothing. Terrible characters. They weren't even menacing. They were laughable. And again, like we've established, their plan doesn't make any sense, and the overall storyline is just kind of messy and gross. So all that said, I will give it a 5 out of 10 as well, because I enjoyed the Ghost Rider aspects of it, it wasn't a complete mess, loss of a watching experience. I did enjoy how they adapted certain aspects of Ghost Rider into it. And as for Nic Cage himself, I don't really think that he brought a whole lot to this character, which we've just said is really puzzling considering how much he seems to like the character. I don't know how much of it was his performance versus what the director wanted him to do. He tends to have a little more freedom on these things to portray the characters how he actually wants to, and I just think it was kind of a miss. Like, he just sort of fuddles along with a lot of this stuff. So there wasn't much that I really thought he brought to it, to the role, to put his own spin onto it. It's kind of a weird direction to take Johnny Blaze, I think. Having read some of at least the older Johnny Blaze comics, he doesn't really act like a childish, immature guy that he does in this movie, like a lovable, kind of goofball, like he kind of is in this.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird that he chose to take that direction with it, and I think it was kind of a miss. So 5 out of 10 as well for Cage's performance. So just sort of middle of the road, almost bad across both of them.
Yeah. I also gave it a 5. It was funny. We all kind of arrived at that separately, but I feel like, the strong points of the movie, I thought Peter Fonda was actually really great. In the scenes that he was in, and like you said, he was kind of underutilized. I wish he would have been the bad guy, because I feel like he was so much more commanding in his scenes and had so much more presence. He just was menacing, and he was cool, and he was not over the top and lame, and he was just interesting. Whereas the actual villains are just the worst, man. Just the worst. The 3 fallen angels, like you said, were defeated in seconds flat. All 3 of them. And I'm like, I guess it was like, you put so much, there's 14 minutes of young Johnny, which felt like too much. And then you spent all this time on all of the other stuff. And I get it. Okay, it costs a lot of money to have Ghost Rider on screen and to have him fight these, crazy creatures who are also CGI the whole time. But even just their look was stupid. Yeah. I mean, everything about them was lame. I mean, it was just stupid costumes, stupid looks on their faces the whole frickin' time, stupid powers. Annoying everything they did. They're mean mugging and over the top in every scene that they're in. And the Rastafarian dude, the wind guy, the dumbest wig I've ever seen on a bad guy. And it looked like he just drew on a frickin' mustache. He just looked terrible the whole time.
Yeah, it was bad.
And that's not even getting to Wes Bentley's performance as Blackheart, which is okay, let's take away, nothing about the comics at all. You don't even know what Blackheart is. He's still just the most wimpy, stupid, lame character ever. He has maybe a couple of seconds where his complete over the top cockiness through the whole thing, he only has a couple of seconds where he actually backs that up, even when he's Legion, he's supposed to be the most powerful demon ever. Even then he's still just wimpy and gets his thing where he's getting the souls flying into him and he's whining and scared while it's happening. Oh my god, I hated it. I hated everything about the bad guys in this thing except for Peter Fonda, who was great.
Peter Fonda was so good that he was menacing just standing around. The fact that the devil just stands around for the movie, but he still had a commanding presence doing it, and you could believe that he was this evil entity was really cool. And I wish that they had, like you said, I wish he had been the main bad guy and they'd leaned into that more.
Why did you even hire Peter Fonda? He's a world-class, Oscar-nominated dude. I think he actually won for Easy Rider, didn't he? He's got an Oscar. I think he won for writing in that, and I think he has an Oscar. We talked about this in Deadfall, I feel like, at some point. But why bring that guy in and then hire these terrible actors for the rest of it? I mean, to be fair, if I was casting a movie and I had the choice of potentially getting Wes Bentley coming off of American Beauty and all of that, maybe I would have cast him too. And maybe it's on him. Maybe it was just like, oh, he didn't bring the performance that they were looking for, and like he ended up doing that. But that's your job as a director, is to like rein that guy in and turn him into the character that you're trying to get him to portray, not whatever the hell this was supposed to be. It was just like they just took some petulant teenager, and maybe that's what they were going for, which I guess maybe the kind of like the prequel, the Star Wars prequels argument of like Hayden Christensen played a petulant teen the way that he was supposed to be, and actually gave a really good performance, but because he was such an emo little pussy boy, you took it as being like, oh, he's just this little bratty bitch who's just a terrible actor. So maybe it was actually a great performance from Wes Bentley. That it's just so confusing why you would cast him as Blackheart after seeing what he's like in the comics and stuff. Eva Mendes, I didn't hate as much as you guys did. I thought she was cute and perky, and she was Eva Mendes. That's what Eva Mendes is in everything that she's in. And my wife was like, she watched it with me when I was watching through the rewatch, and she was the same way, where it's just like, what the fuck does she even bring to this movie? She's just hot. That's all she is for this movie.
It wasn't, my problem with her wasn't her acting was a little weak, but it was more of like their character adds no value to the plot, to the story. Yeah.
Well, you could argue that with most female characters in comic books, especially prior to the MCU comic book movies. Right. They were just kind of there, and even when they're supposed to be like like a world class scientist, or like Lois Lane is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, but she's terrible at being a journalist in all those movies. But so anyways, her performance didn't bug me all that as much. And then Nic Cage, I actually gave a 6 because I actually really, I don't know, same kind of thing as Gone in 60 Seconds, where it's like he wasn't over the top and he wasn't just deadpan. He was present through the whole thing, and I found him to be cool and kind of charming in his own way through the whole thing. I actually one of the things I give him credit for is it didn't feel super cringy when he was around Eva Mendes, even though he's 10 years older than her and they're supposed to be in love from high school or whatever. He's had a lot of practice. Yeah.
God damn it, Mitchell. God damn it.
But I actually liked him in the role. He worked his ass off to get those abs through the thing.
You know what? Changed it to 10 now because of those abs.
But I 100% feel the same criticism of like, I thought he would bring more to this. Like, he's been wanting to do this his entire career. I mean, I feel like that was one of the early things from him as an actor, was like, he loved comics and stuff. And, I did read an article somebody wrote about him where they talked about his love of comics, and he was like, I can't really shake that now. As like, everybody just thinks I'm obsessed with comics and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, you literally named yourself after Luke Cage.
And you named your son after Superman.
After Kal-El, yeah. I mean,
and you didn't even give him a real name. Yeah. Like, you gave him a made-up alien name after Superman.
And you fought so hard to try to get that Superman movie lit.
Yep.
So we're going to play being in love with comic books.
I almost want to go back to a 5 now. But yes, I gave him a 6. But, it was, I thought he was cool, and I thought he did a great job, just kind of being a lovable doofus through the movie. And he has that he switches back and forth between being kind of a likable dummy to a, kind of a serious character throughout the thing. He kind of has those switches where he's like, he's conflicted, and he's also he's fighting off this dark energy that's inside of him while trying to be goofy. And that was kind of Nic Cage's idea of the character, was like, well, if the studio is telling us that we got to make this guy likable, here's how we do it, is we make him kind of a lovable doofus who hasn't grown up, who is a kind of a kid at heart through the whole thing, and he's playing around, having fun through the whole thing, but he's haunted by the darkness that's actually following him. So I don't know. He skirts the line between that. So I feel like I think he earned a 6. Yeah, I'm standing by it.
Okay.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
What was it you were going to say, man?
I just ran a second check on the ramps. They look good. Crowd's kind of out of control. Johnny, you know you don't have to do this, don't you? Can I just turn this music off for a minute? This jump, man.
Here for folks, the amazing Johnny.
No, I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble.
Looks like trouble just found you.
Nice jacket.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, any comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. In our next episode, we'll be breaking down the 2021 cinematic masterpiece and the return of Nicolas Cage's name in the Academy Award discussions, Pig. A reclusive chef must re-enter the society he left behind to try to locate his beloved truffle hunting pig / best friend. It's like such a when I first heard the synopsis and the idea behind this movie, I was like, oh my God, here comes another crazy Nic Cage movie. But as one critic put it, like the animal itself, Pig defies the hogwash of expectations with a beautiful odyssey of loss and love anchored by Nicolas Cage's affecting raw performance. It currently holds a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, making it, at the time of this recording, the highest rated film of Nicolas Cage's career. So definitely make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Howdy.
Are you trying to kill yourself?
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Most of the time, the press focuses on the crashes, the broken bones, the cost of what you do. Are there any other costs?
Yeah.